My family was very poor, with only 3 acres of dry land. My father tended to those 3 acres as if they were sacred ancestors, but no matter how well he cared for them, the grain produced each year was never enough to feed our family of 10. My grandparents were old, and my 3 uncles, already advanced in age, were still bachelors. They would wander from the east end of the village to the west every day, doing nothing but gossiping and idling, truly lazy good-for-nothings. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. My youngest aunt was the same age as me and was the apple of my grandparents' eyes. That year, there was a heavy snowfall, and our family had run out of food for several days, facing the threat of starvation. My father had gone to the city to find work. Then a human trafficker came to the village and offered 4 taels of silver. I sold myself, the day I left home. My mother fainted from crying several times. She gave me her only dowry, a velvet flower. In front of the family, I took 2 taels of silver, and quietly gave the remaining 2 taels to my mother. I told her she must, no matter what, keep my younger brother and sister alive. The snow was so heavy that day. My father hadn't returned yet from working in the county town. My mother stood with my younger siblings in the swirling snow to see me off. It was so cold. Yet she didn't even have a padded jacket to wear. The donkey cart carried me farther and farther away. The wind and snow were so fierce, they soon blurred my vision. There were 12 girls brought along with me, all from my village and neighboring ones, about the same age as me. Although we were sold by the human trafficker, at least we had enough to eat every day. Those who could bring themselves to sell their daughters must not have been living well at home, every day. The others chattered and could still talk, while I just listened quietly, not knowing where we would be sold to next. The road was rough, and the journey took over a month. By the time we reached Bienjing, it was already spring. The human trafficker locked us in a small courtyard. On the first day, he took the 5 prettiest girls out, and a few days later, he took the rest. I was sold to the Wen family in the west of the city. The Wen residence had a 2-courtyard layout, and I heard the head of the household was a 7th-rank official. I was assigned to the second young lady's courtyard as a low-ranking maid, usually sweeping the yard and doing miscellaneous chores. The Wen family had a simple household. Besides the madam, there was only one concubine, who had originally been the madam's personal maid. All 3 young masters were born to the madam, and I heard they were sent to a very prestigious academy in Shaanxi for their studies. So we hardly saw them more than twice a year. All 3 young masters were handsome, but the eldest was the most good-looking, like an immortal descended from heaven. The eldest young lady, also born to the madam, is 13 this year. She appears quiet, but has a rather bad temper. The second young lady, born to a concubine, is only 7. She is plump and fair, like a lucky doll, and loves to laugh, being the youngest in the household and having a simple-minded nature. She is doted on by everyone. The Wen family does not mistreat the servants. After being here for a year, I've gained quite a bit of weight. The madam gives each of us 200 copper coins as a monthly allowance, and there are extra rewards during festivals. I secretly save this money, hoping to have a chance to send it home someday. For me, every day here is a good day. How can the work I do compare to what I had at home? In my free time, I learn to weave knots, do needlework, and chat with the other young maids. The eldest young lady is fond of poetry and books. The senior maid serving her, Sister Shahua, is also quite skilled and very kind. She is never stingy with her time and teaches us to read whenever she can. One day, I heard that a sister who had been sold to Bienjing with me was beaten to death by her master. Only then did I realize how fortunate I was to have encountered a good family, living a life as blissful as that of the immortals. But change came too quickly. In my 14th year, the head of the household was accused of some unknown crime, and the Wen family was raided. By the age of 15, all the men and women of the family were thrown into the death row. Though the punishment did not extend to married daughters, on the eve of the raid, the mistress returned all the deeds of sale and gave each servant 10 taels of silver, granting the household servants and maids a chance to escape. The Wen family had risen to prominence only recently, and most of the servants were newly purchased. In just one night, they all scattered and disappeared. I carried the money I had saved over the years, ready to return to the village, but looking at the second young lady, who was already 9 years old yet still innocent and unaware, my heart softened in the end. The Wen family's estate had been confiscated, and the second young lady and I no longer had a place to live. She could no longer go by her original name, Cheongyang, so I gave her a new name, Baozhu. She is my sister, and I am Baoyin, Chen Baoyin. The Wen family was imprisoned in the death row cell, and even if I spent all the money I had, it was uncertain whether I could even see them once. I had to keep Baoju alive, and to survive, we needed food and a place to stay. I have great strength and am not afraid of hardship. Over the past few years, I've learned to read a few characters and can even keep accounts. I rented a small boat and started a wine-selling business on the Bien River. Selling wine naturally calls for small dishes to go with it. In the summer and autumn, I sold wine-soaked shrimp and crabs, and in the winter, I prepared warm, stomach-soothing snacks. In the first year, after deducting the rent, I actually earned 37 taels of silver. The Wen family's case had initially been full of urgency, as if the execution was about to be carried out at any moment, but a year passed and there was still no movement. I sewed cotton-padded clothes, brought wine and dishes, and went with Baoju to see her father, mother, brother, and aunt. She happily put on the new red cotton-padded jacket and trousers I had made for her, holding my hand and shaking it joyfully again and again. The prison was not as strictly guarded as it was last year. I used 2 taels of silver, and the jailer let Baoju and me in. The prison was dim and smelled foul. Baoju, being timid, gripped my hand, her eyes as panicked as a lost little rabbit. I patted her hand and said, "It's all right, your big sister is here." She smiled, 2 tiny dimples appearing at the corners of her mouth. The whole family was imprisoned together. I could no longer recognize the mistress, master, or the aunt. They had grown so dark and thin they were almost unrecognizable. Of the 3 young masters, only 2 were there. The eldest was missing. I had only seen them 3 or 4 times before, and they were all about a year or 2 apart in age. Now, trying to identify them again, I couldn't tell who was who. The missing one, no one knows where it has gone. At least those present still look like human beings. The jailer opened the door and gave us half an hour. Straw was spread in the corner, likely where they usually sleep. Baoju looked at the father and mother she had longed for day and night, but she no longer recognized them. Yet her family recognized her. Seeing her hiding behind me, peeking out timidly, the master finally called out, "Cheong Niang." After a long pause, she still remembered her name was Cheong Niang. After gazing at her father for a long time, she seemed to recognize him at last and called out, "Father." 2 streams of tears rolled down her fair face as she hesitantly threw herself into her father's arms. The family looked at her again and again, weeping and weeping. Master Wen did not recognize me, with over a dozen maids in the household, and him leaving early and returning late each day. How could he possibly have the energy to remember us? The lady was not yet 40, but her hair had already turned white, making her look like a 60-year-old woman, yet she still recognized me. "Are you Baoyin, girl?" Her eyes were pale gray, and she spoke with some effort. "Mother, she is my elder sister," Baoju replied, holding my hand. "Please forgive me, master and mistress." This servant dared not let the second young lady use her original name, fearing that one day the officials might come searching. I had no choice but to let her take my surname and gave her the name Baoju. What crime has Baoyin committed? My entire Wen family has been convicted, leaving only her behind. The incident happened so suddenly that I didn't even have time to find a place for my daughter. If it weren't for you, would she even be alive and standing here today? I can't thank you enough. Who would have thought that a year after the Wen family's conviction, not even my own daughter came to see us, only a maid from the household. Back then, my wife had already returned your deed of servitude to all of you. You are no longer a maid of this household. What's wrong with being Baoju's elder sister? If the Wen family ever sees the light of day again, Baoyin will be the young lady of this house. I observed the master's demeanor. His integrity remained intact. There might still be room for a turnaround in this matter, and I felt happy for Baoju. I have no desire to become a young lady. I only wish to return to my village to see my parents and younger siblings. Continuing to work as a boatwoman on the Bien River would suit me just fine. Master and madam, please do not blame the eldest young lady. I took Baoju to the Su family, but we did not see her that day. I heard she had just given birth and was still in confinement. The Su family, fearing it would startle her, did not inform her of the truth. The lady of the Su family sent someone to find me and said that for the sake of the eldest young lady's well-being, I must never bring Baoju to their door again. A few days later, the Su family moved to the eastern capital. Even if the eldest young lady wanted to see you, the journey is long and treacherous, and she has a child to care for. How could she possibly return? There's more I haven't mentioned. When the young lady heard about the Wen family's affairs, she fainted from crying twice. While she was still unconscious, her husband had her carried onto the ship. We are all ordinary people. In such times, what is wrong with prioritizing self-preservation? After a few words were exchanged, the time had come. I had to take Baoju away, she cried, insisting on bringing her family along, and it took much coaxing to finally get her out, yet she wept, asking why her elder brother was nowhere to be seen. The mansion was filled with tales of the eldest young master. Not only was he as elegant as an orchid and a jade tree, but by the time he came of age, he had already achieved the top 3 honors in the imperial examinations. He was the most prized disciple of Grand Secretary Song. And it was certain that he would become a future Grand Secretary himself, among other praises. I don't know about the rest, but his looks were indeed exceptional after all. His mother was a rare beauty, yet such a person had vanished without a trace, his fate unknown. Lord Wen fell silent, and I knew I could not press further. I took Baoju and returned home. We rented a courtyard on East Street with others, since Baoju and I arrived early. We took 2 east-facing rooms, one for living and one for cooking. The 3 west-facing rooms were occupied by a family of 4. The man was a street vendor who peddled his wares around the neighborhood, while the woman stayed home to look after the children. The vendor's surname was He. He was tall and had a silver tongue. His wife, Madam He, was a woman of few words but had a kind heart. She was skilled with her hands and often spent her free time embroidering handkerchiefs and pouches, which her husband would then sell. I could manage sewing clothes and making shoes, but embroidery was beyond me. In my spare time, I let Baoju learn from her. Baoju had the patience for it and picked it up quite well. The leftover fish, meat, and shrimp I sold each day often ended up in the stomachs of Baoju and Madam his 2 children. There was nothing unusual about this day, except that the Bian River had frozen over, forcing me to halt my business. For the regular customers who enjoyed my snacks, I made them at home and delivered them. After returning home and having dinner, Baoju was already drowsy. Seeing her asleep, I took a shoe sole and began stitching it by the oil lamp. The brazier was burning firewood, which produced a lot of smoke. I left a crack in the window, and only after putting out the fire before bedtime and airing out the room did I dare to close it. I was already 15, considered a grown girl no matter where I went. Making a living by the Bian River wasn't as easy as one might think. There were constant disturbances, and even more so for a girl like me with a younger sister to care for. But the river has its own rules. Once the protection fee is paid, someone will naturally look after it. I'm not afraid of hard work. I'm just afraid of causing trouble. When the knocking sound came, I was startled. After all, in Bianjing, Baoju and I only had each other to rely on. Who would come looking for us in the dead of night? Who is it? I called out loudly. My surname is Wen. The person outside the door spoke in a low, pleasant male voice. Surname Wen. Without thinking too much, I put on my padded jacket and got out of bed. The person outside slipped through the door, and I quickly closed it behind him. The visitor stood with his back to me, looking at Baoju by the bedside. The house was small, with only a curtain separating the bed area from the main room, which served as both the bedroom and the living room. Now that he had drawn it aside, everything was clearly visible. He was extremely tall, draped in a black cloak, with his hair tightly tied back by a jade band. I vaguely guessed who he might be, but dared not ask further. Only waiting for him to finish looking around, I added firewood to the brazier, boiled a pot of hot water, and poured him a cup of tea. The tea was the kind usually served to guests on the boat, not particularly good, but not bad either. When he drew the curtain and came out, the oil lamp was dim, yet I still saw him clearly from head to toe. People in the mansion say he looks like an orchid and jade tree. Having lived this long, I never knew what an orchid and jade tree was, but seeing him again today, I finally understand. He resembles the lady of the house quite closely, only his eyebrows are thicker and longer. He has naturally captivating peach blossom eyes, charming and romantic even when he isn't smiling, with a straight nose bridge, lips that aren't too thin, and a well-defined jawline. Upon closer look, there's a small black mole under his lip, yet he carries an air of aloofness, both cold and alluring. The shallow term handsome man isn't enough to describe him. The key is, he's also exceptionally fair-skinned. He sat down in the chair without even taking off his cloak, and picked up the tea I had poured. Even his hands are so beautifully shaped. Truly, a good-looking person has no flaws to be found. His pupils were dark, and when he looked at someone, it was inscrutable, making one's heart race. From the way he was dressed, he didn't seem to be down on his luck, because his white robe beneath the cloak was woven from cloud brocade, truly an inch of brocade worth an inch of gold. If he had never fallen into hardship, why didn't he save the other members of the Wen family? The court is full of secrets. I dared not ask too much, nor did I wish to, so I simply stood by and waited for him to speak, calm and composed. You do have some courage. No wonder you were able to protect Chungyang so well. His voice was low and cool, and I didn't dare look at him, keeping my head down without answering. Take this item. Tomorrow, find a way to leave the city and deliver it to Abbot Farhue at the Jiming Temple. This matter is of great importance. You must proceed with caution. If it weren't absolutely necessary, I wouldn't have come to you. I was reluctant to take it, but hearing the urgency and helplessness in his voice when he said he had no other choice, I finally gritted my teeth and accepted it. The item was wrapped in cloth, shaped like a book, not very thick, and still warm with his body heat when he handed it to me. Sir, I beg you to take care, the entire Wen family is still in prison. Waiting for you. As he stood up to leave, I couldn't bear it any longer. For Baoju's sake, for the Wen family's sake, I said these words. He nodded, then suddenly smiled, as dazzling as the scorching sun. Aren't you afraid that the Wen family and I might both be bad people? I only know that the Wen family treats me well, and that's enough. If it weren't for the Wen family, I wouldn't even know what I'd be like now. He nodded and slipped out. Jiming Temple is not an ordinary temple. It opens only on the 1st and 15th days of each month. Tomorrow is neither the 1st nor the 15th, so even getting through the gate is an immense challenge, let alone meeting the abbot. Early the next morning, I entrusted Baoju to Lady He and headed up Jilung Mountain. Though it's called a mountain, Jilung Mountain is not steep. I'm used to physical labor, so walking a few steps was naturally not difficult. When I reached the temple gate, it was tightly shut, and the sound of chanting and wooden fish percussion drifted out from inside. I knocked on the door several times before a young novice monk appeared. He looked to be only 5 or 6 years old, at that adorable age, and was raised fair and tender. Seeing me, he solemnly pressed his palms together and said, Lady Benefactor, if you wish to offer incense or fulfill a vow, please come again on the 1st or 15th day of the month. I found him so adorable that I couldn't resist the urge to pat his head, but fearing it might be improper, I took 2 pine nut candies from my purse and gave them to him, the same kind I usually use to coax Baoju. He pursed his lips, hesitating and unwilling to take them, so I pulled open his hand and placed the candies in his palm. I'm not here to offer incense or fulfill a vow. Go tell your abbot that his daughter from his secular life has come to find him. I know it's wrong to deceive, but what else can I do? If I hadn't overheard that casual conversation on the ship, I would never have come up with such a plan. Abbot Farhue was the former emperor's own son before he became a monk. Even the current emperor would address him as Uncle Prince. During the rebellion of the 5 princes, the abbot was ordered by the emperor to personally quell the uprising. The Prince of Huai kidnapped his family and threatened to kill them if he didn't withdraw his troops. Fearing that he would be held back, the princess set the mansion on fire with their children inside. By the time he captured the city and returned home, all that remained were over 100 charred bodies, burned beyond recognition. I heard that a wet nurse from the household fled with the young princess, but no one knows where they went. After searching for years without success, the abbot lost heart and became a monk at Rooster Crow Mountain. If that princess were still alive, she would be about 15 or 16 years old now. The young novice was still too young to know the abbot's past, but he went inside to look for someone. Since I had mustered the courage to come, I didn't feel as afraid anymore. As for pretending to be the princess, I'd heard that many families had brought their children to the prince's mansion back then to claim kinship. Although none of them were the real princess, not a single one was beheaded. The prince is now the abbot, and he should not be creating more bloodshed. Soon, a plump monk came out. His belly was round and full, his nose was large with a red tip, and his cheeks were fleshy. On someone else, it might have looked menacing, but on him, it only appeared endearing and kind. He looked me over from head to toe and asked with a smile, How can you be so sure, Lady Benefactor, that you are the daughter of our abbot? Since I am not, I dare not be certain. I guessed, if the folk rumors are true. I match every detail. As for whether it's really true, only the abbot can tell. After all, only he himself would know if she's his daughter or not. Anyway, no matter what, meeting the person is what matters. When facade seems real, reality seems false. The fat monk tilted his head, looking at the little novice's puffed-up cheeks, and asked him to open his hand. The novice, still too naive, obediently stretched out his palm. The fat monk, with his chubby fingers, pinched the remaining piece of candy and popped it into his own mouth. Then, puffing out his big belly, he turned and walked back. The little novice was dumbfounded. Seeing his expression, I helplessly patted his small shoulder. What's your name? Mirror. He looked dejected, on the verge of tears. Mirror, listen to your sister when your master falls asleep. Go scratch at his door. If he snatches your food, ruin his sweet dreams. If that still doesn't work, spit twice on your food before you eat it. Let's see if he still dares to take it then. This time, consider it a small loss. Next time I come, I'll definitely bring you more pieces of candy. I crouched in front of him, coaxing him gently. I suppose Mingjing had never heard such wicked words before. He was stunned for a moment, just staring at me with his round, wide eyes. His master arrived quickly and led me inside. Mingjing followed by my side, looking as if he wanted to say something but hesitated. I grinned at him triumphantly, probably thinking I was quite impressive, right? Abbot Fahui had just finished his sermon and was waiting for me under the bodhi tree in the backyard. Though it was cold in winter, this tree alone remained lush and green as if it were spring. If not for his shaved head and monk's robes, who would have guessed he was a monk, after all? He was too handsome and refined. He had been on the battlefield, yet there was no trace of a soldier's ruggedness about him. He appeared scholarly and wise, and even his age was hard to guess. Everyone had withdrawn, and he stood beneath the tree, fingering his prayer beads. From a distance, he looked like a painting. I am guilty, Your Eminence, and I beg your forgiveness. I had no choice but to lie today. I bowed and apologized, perhaps accustomed to disappointment. His expression showed no change. I took the bundle from my shoulder and handed it to him. He unwrapped it, glanced at it briefly, and then closed it again. What fault could you possibly have? A young lady with such courage and wit is rare indeed. Did Ruchu bring any other message? His voice was clear and pleasant, neither hurried nor slow, and it made one feel happy just to hear it. Nothing else. Ruchu must be the courtesy name of the eldest son of the Wen family. Since you've come to find me, it must be a real difficulty. If he has any trouble in the future, you can come to me anytime. What is your name, and what do you do for a living? Bao Yin, Chen Bao Yin. I work as a wine-selling boatwoman on the Bian River. Good girl, go on your way now. Several months have passed in a flash since the last time. The Bian River has thawed, and my business has only gotten better. Upon hearing that the Princess Royal would be taking a boat tour on the river on the 3rd day of the 3rd month, Baozhu insisted on going to see her. The boat was scheduled to dock for a day, so I took Baozhu to watch early in the morning. The Princess Royal is the elder sister of the current emperor. Her father adored her, marrying her into the prosperous city of Bianjing and even granting it to her as her fief. There are many rumors about the Princess Royal. It is said that when her consort kept a mistress, she had him castrated. Later, she herself kept many handsome male companions. Indulging in pleasure day after day, anyone who caught her I could not escape her grasp. Thus, in Bianjing, it is rare to hear of any handsome young men. They are sent far away to study at academies once they reach school age and seldom return home unless they have ambitions to climb the social ladder and willingly offer themselves. There are many rumors about the princess, and no one knows what is true or false. But it is said that even the current emperor has to show her some deference, which speaks volumes about her power. We arrived early and naturally secured the best spot on the bridge. The princess's procession was, of course, grand, with 3 painted boats alone, each 3 stories high. The princess had a great fondness for white gauze, so the one veiled in white must surely be carrying her. That's the one in the middle. Baozhu stared intently, chattering away noisily. Aside from the maids and eunuchs in attendance, the boat was mostly filled with young and handsome men. There is a variety of everything. It seems the rumor about the princess keeping male favorites is not baseless. Yet the princess herself is nowhere to be seen. As the painted boat drew closer, a gust of wind came, lifting the white gauze. Eldest brother, it's my eldest brother. Baozhu pointed at the boat. I was terrified and quickly covered her mouth. When I looked back, the lifted gauze was almost falling back down. But some people are simply stunning, even if you've only caught a glimpse. You can still pick them out in a crowd of thousands. The princess was clad in a white gauze gown, her long legs faintly visible, the floral adornment on her forehead, the red corners of her eyes, and her slightly parted crimson lips were all clearly discernible, and he, beneath the princess, lay with his pale chest exposed. I could even clearly see his furrowed brow and trembling long eyelashes. As the princess moved to touch his lips, he turned his head away. In that instant, he opened his eyes, and our gazes met. Time seemed both long and short, long enough for me to see the shame and indignation in his eyes, yet too short for me to locate the small mole beside his lips. A distinguished top scholar, yet he had no choice but to submit to the princess. This is probably more unbearable to him than death itself. The so-called integrity of a scholar is unyielding, but the man I saw today was completely different from the one I saw that night. If he can endure such humiliation, there must be something more important than his own life that he must accomplish. I believe in him. I think, days come and go in cycles. Yet I have never been able to forget that moment when our eyes met. Baoju has grown into a young lady now. She has forgotten most of the characters she learned in earlier years. I had intended to send her to Jiming Temple to let the abbot teach her, but I fear that those hiding in the shadows might discover it, if the eldest young master were truly exposed. I'm afraid it would mean certain death for him. The princess, however, established a school specifically for teaching girls. I sent Baoju there, and along with her went the youngest daughter of Lady He. Although Baoju was slow-witted, her memory was excellent. Whatever she learned that day, she could recite and write it down exactly as it was when she returned. I learned along with her, and gradually, I was able to read a simple book. I came to realize that reading and learning etiquette were indeed real. The books contained many things I had never thought of before and could never have imagined. It is also true that within books, there are houses of gold, and within books, there are beauties like jade. On the day of the Dragon Boat Festival in May, I took Baoju to the prison, bringing along the zongzi I had made myself, along with other food and wine. Baoju and I bought fan surfaces, painted them into fans, and also brought mugwort and colorful strings. They seem to be doing better than the last time we met. The lady no longer sounds breathless when she speaks. And I've heard that the two young masters are studying diligently every day, using the ground as paper and sticks as pens. Even the concubine has stopped crying. The Wen family seem to have found a glimmer of hope. I thoroughly fumigated the prison with mugwort, hung the remaining bundle at the entrance. Baoju tied colorful strings for them, and laid out some food. Before I left, I repeatedly warned Baoju not to reveal that she had seen her elder brother that day, if others were to find out. Her brother's life would be in danger. She asked several times if she could tell her parents, but each time I shook my head. She soon understood the gravity of the situation and never brought it up again. It wasn't that I feared the Grand Princess would discover his identity since she had allowed him to stay. She had surely investigated his family background thoroughly. In fact, it was more likely that she knew exactly who he was and was deliberately humiliating him because of it. What I truly feared was that his parents, unaware of the truth, might hear about their son's plight and, overwhelmed with grief and anger, take their own lives in despair. He must have humbled himself to such an extent, surely in part to save his family's lives. If he were to learn that his family had died in grief and anger because of him, how would he face himself then? Sister sent me to school, and now I can recite many books. The characters on this fan were also written by me. Father, do you think they're well written? Baoju hugged her father's arm and cooed. At this moment, she didn't seem to suffer from any foolishness at all. I've always felt that Baoju wasn't ill, she just thought a little less about certain things than others, and was more childlike. Her father then examined the fan carefully, nodding as he looked. His beard had grown quite long, and he stroked it while praising her work incessantly. My son has made great progress. To be able to write such fine characters, it seems your second and third brothers must work even harder. I admire the Wen family, especially because of Master Wen's attitude toward his children, stricter with his sons, gentler with his daughters, yet his eyes are always filled with deep affection, never showing favoritism. The children he raised are open-minded and not at all narrow-minded. Did you hear that, second and third brothers? If you don't work harder, I'll soon surpass you. Baoju lifted her chin proudly. This is all thanks to your elder sister. Raising you was no easy task for her, and she even sent you to study. You must always remember her kindness in the future. Her mother tapped her on the forehead. My sister is the best sister in the world, and I am her most considerate little sister. Mother, look at the new clothes she sewed for you. The inner garments are all made of fine cotton. They were washed, dried, and then carefully softened by hand before being sewn. But now I can help my sister with the sewing too. Baoju rummaged through the bundle and took out the inner garments. Back then, Xiangxiu and I were both sold to Bianjing. Now she has become a concubine in a wealthy household. When I heard she was sending someone back to our hometown with gifts, I sought her out and sent back the clothes I had sewn over the years for my parents and younger siblings, along with 30 taels of silver. A few days ago, that person returned, bringing a letter written by someone in the city on behalf of my father. After receiving the 2 taels of silver from selling myself, my grandparents insisted on dividing the family property, and the 2 taels were distributed per person. My parents only received 600 copper coins. The house was built by my grandparents, so naturally it wasn't given to my parents. My father gritted his teeth and took my mother and younger siblings into the county town. My father, being strong, found work with my younger brother as laborers in a grain store. My mother took my sister to do laundry for others. Though they didn't earn much, they managed to rent a place in the city. And now they're getting by just fine, now with the 30 taels of silver I sent back. Along with what I've saved over the years, I can return to the village to buy land, build a house, and even arrange a marriage for my younger brother. The Wen family has been like a second life to me. If not for the master and madam's compassion in releasing my indenture back then, who knows whether I'd be alive or dead today. I should treat them as I would my own parents. What does a simple set of undergarments matter in comparison? When the Wen family fell into hardship, all our once close relatives and friends avoided us like the plague. Not a single one stepped forward. Only Baoyin remained utterly devoted to our family. Master, if we manage to survive this, let our Sua marry her in the future. As the saying goes, adversity reveals true feelings. Where else could we find such a loyal and righteous woman? Madam Wen patted my head as she spoke. At the time, I didn't know which Sua she was referring to, but I felt unworthy of any of them. They were all scholarly young gentlemen. If the Wen family were to be pardoned, they would surely pursue official careers and ought to marry well-matched young ladies from suitable families. How could I dare to entertain such presumptuous thoughts? Madam must not say such things. What Bao Yin is doing now is not even 1/10,000th of what you and the master have done for me. If it weren't for you granting me freedom, I wouldn't even know whether I'd be alive or dead today. Everything I do comes from the heart. If the young master of this household steps out into the world, he will surely enter officialdom in the future. How could he marry a wife who was once a maid? If Madam truly wishes to thank me, treating me the same as Baoju would be more than enough. I remained kneeling as I was. Let's see what the future holds. For now, I fear the Wen family might hold you back. Enough of this. No more talk. Baoju, pour your father some wine. I had long forgotten about the events of that day, and by the time they were brought up again, the circumstances had already changed entirely. May is the month of poison, so one does not go out at night without good reason. I closed the door early, coaxed Baoju to sleep, and rummaged through the chest to count the silver and copper coins I had saved once more. If the Wen family is released and Master Wen can be reinstated to his official position, that would be best, but if not, where will they live once they're out? What will they eat every day? Will the two young masters still be able to study? What will happen to the eldest young master then? I dared not think any further. Buying a house was certainly out of the question. We could only rent a larger one, but the money I had wasn't even enough for rent. I needed to find another way to make a living. With just the income from the boat, who knows how many years it would take to afford the two young masters' education. I held my head and ended up falling asleep on the desk. When I woke with a start, he was already sitting across from me. Having arrived at some unknown time, my arm had gone numb from being pressed against the table, and moving it felt like ants burrowing into my flesh, both painful and itchy. I grimaced and took a long moment to recover. He just watched me quietly, not saying a word, the scent of Realgar wine lingering on him. He was dressed in white robes, with wide sleeves. And if the collar had been loosened just 1 more inch, his entire chest would have been exposed, disheveled and unkempt, likely from too much drink. The corners of his eyes were red and glistening with moisture. No wonder the princess was drawn to him. He was the very image of a soul-sucking enchantress. I was 16, just the right age for marriage, yet I had never truly encountered a man like him. My first experience was with such an exceptional specimen. So blushing and heart-pounding were only natural. Over the years, I had grown quite thick-skinned. What kind of customers hadn't I seen on the boat? Some loved telling crude jokes, and I went from blushing fiercely to tuning them out entirely. But faced with his audacious charm, my usual defenses seemed to fail me. What brings you here today, great lord? I licked my lips and offered an awkward smile. Do you still have any colored threads? Tie one for me. He rubbed his forehead. Seeming both drunk and not, I only knew not to reason with a drunkard, so naturally I didn't say anything like, "What time is it already? The Dragon Boat Festival has long passed," which would have been inconsiderate. I found one from the sewing basket, and seeing him extend his fair wrist waiting, I tied it for him. He lifted his arm to look, but his sleeve was too loose, revealing half of his forearm. On that fair, well-defined arm were shocking wounds. Some were fresh, some were old. The fresh ones were still oozing blood, while the old ones had faded into pale scars. I was so startled that I covered my mouth with my hand, afraid I might scream. He saw my reaction but laughed carelessly. "What, scared?" he said, and with that, he tugged at his collar, pulling his white shirt down to his waist, revealing that there wasn't a single patch of unmarked skin on his body. I stared wide-eyed at the various wounds on that pale body, suddenly feeling a sharp pang of shock and pain. Back then, I was young and didn't yet understand what it was that shocked and pained me so. "Do you know what I do every day? Do you know what a male pet is?" "Every day," I drink medicine, then kneel and bow beneath that woman, begging for her favor. No matter what she does, I can't even feel the pain anymore. What does being the top scholar matter? What does being a talented scholar matter? I've long lost my integrity. I'm just a corpse that even I despise. If it weren't for, he must have been truly drunk to still be brooding over the incident that Baoju and I had witnessed. Others might not have mattered, but Baoju was his closest family, the sister who saw him as an orchid and jade tree of an elder brother. How could he face her after she had seen him in such a wretched state? I rummaged through boxes and cabinets to find some wound medicine, then prepared a basin of warm water. There were wounds on his body from pinches, bites, and whiplashes, some of which were unrecognizable in origin. I was horrified to see them, not daring to use too much force for fear of hurting him, so I bit my lip and handled him with the utmost care. He wasn't as frail as he appeared. His muscles were well-defined, firm and pleasing to the eye. Perhaps from the pain, his body was tensed up tightly. Gradually, I found myself calming down and began telling him about my visit to the prison today. You, my lord, are surely destined for great things. Since you've already protected the lives of your family, leave the rest to me. I will take care of them all, properly and thoroughly. The easiest thing in this world is to die a rope, a knife, even biting one's tongue to end it all, but living requires true courage. My lord, integrity, honesty, and magnanimity are marks of character. They grow more striking under the harshness of wind and frost. Even in the face of pressure and difficult choices, that same character shines through. Since you've already made your choice, why harm yourself like this? Those who know and love you will never abandon you. Perhaps this is the benefit of being well read. I too can say things that are appropriate and timely. He lay half reclined in the chair with his eyes closed, appearing as if asleep. The wound on his abdomen was more severe than elsewhere, and his waist was extremely slender. For some reason, I suddenly recalled what my mother once told me: a man ought to be sturdy and strong. If his waist is too slender, he wouldn't even be able to lift his wife, let alone talk about continuing the family line and providing for the household. Thinking about it now, it seems rather amusing. Though his waist is slender, he still appears to have some strength. Finished. Actually, it's unnecessary. It'll just get torn again in a few days. What a waste. He sat up straight, and I helped him put on his clothes. You should take better care of yourself, no matter what. You ought to protect yourself better. How am I supposed to protect myself? The way I am now is already my greatest concession. If you ask me to grovel and beg like others, I'd rather just die, he said petulantly. For a moment, I was at a loss for words. Indeed, how easy it is to say, yet how hard it is to do. How on earth did he persuade himself to become the male favorite of the princess back then? And how did he grit his teeth and endure it all this time? He would rather endure physical pain than give up the last shred of his dignity. I'm hungry, make something to eat. Won't it be a problem if I go back too late? Today, she gave me permission to come home and take a look. But where is home for me now? This is the only place I have left. Today I went to the prison. And tomorrow the boat won't set sail. There wasn't much food at home, only 2 perch still swimming in the water jar. I caught one, cleaned it, and steamed it. He found the small stool Baoju usually uses to tend the fire and sat by the kitchen door, watching me cook. I heated the leftover bowl of plain congee in a clay pot. It was all ready-made. The fish steamed quickly, and I also scooped him half a plate of drunken shrimp and sliced a few pieces of cured meat to stir-fry. He isn't picky with his food. I didn't make too much of each dish, and he finished everything clean. While I washed the bowls, he stood by the stove watching. He was tall, and under the lamplight, his shadow stretched long and dark against the wall. I want to try a different line of work. When the master and mistress are released from prison, if they can't resume their official posts, I'd like to rent a larger courtyard. If the young masters can study, they should naturally return to their books. Though the boat business is good, the earnings are truly too meager. By then, it might be hard just to make ends meet, let alone anything else. I shared my thoughts with him. He lowered his eyes, deep shadows pooling beneath them. Have you thought of me? He suddenly asked. Of course I've thought about it. I don't know what kind of work you're involved in, but I imagine it must be related to the Grand Princess. Royal affairs are always shrouded in mystery. Who can say how things will turn out? I only hope you can emerge from it safely. That would be the best outcome. I dare not think any further. He curled his lips, as if smiling, yet not quite. What kind of business do you want to pursue? This year's business has been good. After sending 30 taels to my parents and spending on daily necessities and bribes for the prison, I still have 60 taels and 57 coppers left. This amount isn't even enough to rent the most remote shop in Bienjing. I haven't decided what to do yet. I won't be sailing these next few days. I'll look around first to see if there are any better ways to make a living. Silver is a good thing. It's not hard to use silver to make more silver, but using people to earn silver, that's not something you can achieve just by working hard. Leave the matter of silver to me. I'll think of a way. Please don't. If you had silver, you would have brought it back long ago. Why wait until today? Just take care of yourself. Let me think. There must be a way. He looked at me with a half smile, and I was baffled by his gaze, frowning as I stared back at him. He actually extended a fair finger and poked me on the forehead, nearly knocking me over backward. I covered my reddened forehead and glared at him in annoyance, but he just laughed. With his red lips and white teeth, he looked astonishingly handsome. I sought out Xiangxiu and borrowed 100 taels of silver from her. This was all her private savings. I promised to repay her 130 taels in 6 months. While selling fish, I met an uncle who worked on a ship. His wife was also a boatwoman like me. Their ship specialized in collecting pearls from the East Sea and transporting them to the capital for sale. I heard it was a highly profitable business. I pleaded with the uncle, gave him 2 taels of silver, and treated him to a meal. I entrusted Baozhu to his wife and, carrying over 100 taels of silver, disguised myself as a young woman visiting relatives and boarded the ship to the East Sea. There were many paying passengers on the ship, men and women, young and old. I blended into the crowd and didn't stand out. More than 2 months had passed by the time I returned. It was already early August, and the hottest days were over. I had been tanned dark by the sea breeze, and Baozhu had grown quite a bit taller. After all the back and forth, aside from repaying Xiangxiu, I still had over 600 taels of silver left. Going to sea depends on luck. If heaven doesn't permit it, capsizing and losing one's life are real possibilities. This is not a sustainable way to make a living. I rented a shop on East Street, with 3 rooms in the backyard, more than enough space for Baozhu and me. This street is full of tea stalls, breakfast spots, and late-night snacks, so it's only fitting that I sell wontons here. The shop was originally a food stall, so all I needed to do was clean the oil stains off the tables and floor in the kitchen. Baozhu has to go to school, so she can only lend a hand after classes. I spent about a week tidying up and whitewashed the walls with lime. I replaced the cloth curtain at the entrance with a bamboo one and placed a few pots of chrysanthemums in full bloom on the windowsill by the door. With only 4 tables, if all 3 meals are fully occupied, I can earn 3 taels of silver each day. A few days before the opening, I was still worrying about the signboard when the eldest young master came late at night. It had been a full 3 months since I last saw him, and he looked the same as before, yet somehow different. I hadn't seen him often, so I couldn't quite pinpoint what was different at first. He was dressed in a black robe, fastened with an emerald belt that made his waist appear impossibly slender. You, a young woman, have such nerve, sneaking off to sail the seas. The weather at sea is unpredictable, and you dared to go. If the ship had capsized, your little life would have been lost long ago. Didn't I say I would find a way to handle the money matters? He frowned, looking extremely annoyed. I was perceptive enough to see his anger, so I hung my head and avoided provoking him. What's wrong? Too scared to speak. Look at yourself now. You were already ugly to begin with, barely passable only because of your fair skin, and now you're as dark as charcoal. Who would dare marry you looking like this? Why did it suddenly turn into a personal attack? No need for your concern, sir. My father arranged a childhood marriage for me. Once the Wen family is safe and sound, I'll return to my hometown and marry him, I replied with a blank expression. My family is so poor we can't even lift the pot lid. Where would we arrange a marriage? If there really were such a thing, my grandparents would have married me off as a child bride long ago. I clearly saw his brow twitch, his dark eyes fixed on me. I didn't flinch or avoid his gaze. This was a matter of dignity. Fine, very well. Since the engagement is settled, do as you please, just make sure you protect this little life of yours. He tossed down a piece of paper and, without saying another word, turned to leave again. I got anxious and grabbed his sleeve. Not going to eat? I'll make you a bowl of seafood wontons, so fresh you'll want to swallow your tongue. I teased him with a playful grin. He stood there for a long moment before reluctantly turning back and sitting down. With a temper like his, how did he endure it at the princess's residence? Thinking of the scars all over his body, why deliberately provoke him? He's already suffered enough, in this place. He should come with joy and leave with joy. Don't be angry. Look, the shop is about to open. I promise I won't run off recklessly anymore, but the shop still doesn't have a signboard. Since it's our family's business, shouldn't you contribute a little effort? I found some ink and a brush, and also looked for a piece of paper. Have you thought of a name? he picked up the brush and turned to ask me. Seafood wonton, our customers are all ordinary folks, so writing it this way makes it clear at a glance. Everyone knows our wontons are fresh. He smiled, rolled up his sleeves, picked up the brush, and finished it in one go. Later, I saw him in all sorts of ways, but only that night. With his sleeves rolled up and brush in hand, his back straight, leaving a quiet silhouette in the dim light. That was when he looked his best, a stroke of slender gold, forceful enough to pierce the paper. This should be his true self, brimming with boundless vitality, confident and perfect. I was completely mesmerized just watching him. How is it? He turned to ask me, his eyes sparkling like a galaxy. It's beautiful. I'm completely captivated. The words, the person, everything is unbelievably beautiful. He pursed his lips and smiled. It was only later that I learned he was only 22 years old that year. He ate 2 bowls of wontons, and as he was leaving, I handed him that silver note again, telling him to return it to wherever it came from, no matter the relationship. Once money gets involved, feelings become less pure. He finally took the silver note and said to me, "If you were a man, what would become of you?" Unfortunately, I am a woman, and this is all I could do. The wonton shop's business was getting better and better, and I couldn't handle it all by myself, so I hired Lady He to help in the kitchen. By the end of the year, counting the silver, I felt a sense of confidence. Day after day, in my 19th year, the princess returned to the capital, and it was said she would be staying for a while, probably not coming back anytime soon. The princess left, and she took him with her. He didn't come often, only once a month or every few months, and when he did, it was late at night. He would stay just long enough to eat a bowl of rice, and we barely exchanged a few words, yet I longed for him. I missed him. They say beauty can ruin a kingdom, and beauty can ruin a person. But the beautiful ones never realize it. In the 12th month, the emperor made a vow. Though I didn't know what he wished for, it was well known that he followed the Daoist faith, refining elixirs daily in pursuit of immortality. He made his vow quite well. After all, a general amnesty was to be granted, and the Wen family happened to be included. Only his concubine, who had caught a severe cold that year, didn't pull through and just passed away like that. I rented another courtyard with 6 rooms in total, all tidied up long ago. The year actually went quite well, except that he wasn't here. Baoju was already a 14-year-old young lady, tall and graceful, truly a delicate flower. Her foolishness seemed to have faded. She spoke and acted with clear reasoning, though sometimes she could be a bit too serious. For instance, I asked her to move back home, but she absolutely refused, and no one could persuade her. I am already an old maid. But she has grown up and cannot follow me around the shop every day, showing her face in public. She is so beautiful, it's better for her to stay at home, cultivate her temperament, and learn some skills like music, chess, calligraphy, and painting from her parents. When her eldest brother returns in the future, he will surely arrange an excellent marriage for her. I had no choice but to take her back home to live. I simply gave the backyard to Mrs. He and her family, letting them live there for free. This way, they could watch the shop and also save money, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. I am already a free woman. To put it bluntly, I have long had no ties with the Wen family. Living with Baoju was fine, but returning home, I always felt uneasy. However, the master and mistress treated me just like their own daughter, no different from how they treated Baoju. The 2 young masters also treated me with respect and courtesy. Gradually, I adapted, calling them uncle and aunt, and following Baoju in addressing the 2 young masters as second brother and third brother. He has been gone for half a year without a single word. Uncle seems to have found a new hobby, spending half of each day lecturing at the school and the other half teaching his 2 elder brothers at home. He is a proper scholar with a provincial degree. Baoqi no longer needs to attend school. Every day, she stays at home with her mother, studying, practicing calligraphy, doing needlework, and also tidying the house, buying groceries, and cooking. She is now skilled in all these tasks. If I prepare a generous dowry for her, what kind of husband could she not find? Marrying into a wealthy and influential family might be difficult, but finding a match in an ordinary, well-off household should not be hard. I only ask for one thing. May she marry someone who loves and protects her, so she can live a life of happiness and peace. One day I returned home late, and the atmosphere was somber and tense. Though I didn't know what had happened, the family couldn't explain it clearly either, only saying that uncle had gone to the private school in the morning, came back, shut himself in his room, and hadn't come out since, not eating anything all day. I had a vague understanding in my heart he must have found out about the matter concerning the eldest young master. It was bound to happen sooner or later. It was just a matter of a day or 2. I cooked the wontons I brought back from the shop, let the others eat first, and took a bowl to find him. The room on the east side was reserved as a study, and he was there. I called out several times before he answered. I pushed the door open and entered. The lamp in the study wasn't lit, and the moonlight streaming through the window only illuminated a silhouette. I placed the bowl on the table and found a fire striker to light the lamp. It had only been a day since I last saw him. But Uncle seemed to have aged all at once. His already graying hair appeared even whiter. He hunched over, unable to straighten his back again. "Uncle, have you heard about the eldest young master?" I placed the bowl in front of him and handed him the chopsticks, but his hands trembled so much he couldn't hold them. "Uncle, are you ashamed of him for tarnishing your reputation? Or do you feel sorry for him? My son has suffered too much. It's my fault." Uncle actually burst into tears. His heart aching for his child more than for his reputation. "Uncle, since you care for him so much, don't say any more about whether it's your fault or not. He's already suffered enough in his heart. He kept it from you all because he was afraid that one day you would find out and blame or resent him, or feel guilty and sad. He endured such bitterness with clenched teeth, so we should continue as we always have, living our lives well, since we are a family. How can we keep track of so many accounts? We should treat him just as we usually do, so he won't feel awkward or uncomfortable." I found a handkerchief and wiped his tears for him. "But with such a reputation, how will he ever marry and have children in the future?" "Uncle, he is a very, very fine gentleman. There will surely be a better lady waiting for him. You need not worry, just eat well, rest well, and wait to hold a chubby grandchild. He is so good, like the bright moon in the sky, with even his eyes sparkling like scattered starlight. There will surely be a discerning lady in this world who recognizes his worth. He has already suffered too much, if heaven still pities him. It will surely give him a wife who loves, protects, and remains devoted to him wholeheartedly." In July, I handed over the shop to Lady He and Auntie, and rode back to my hometown on the delivery cart with Xiangxiu. I left home at the age of 12, and now 7 years have passed. I don't know if it's me who has changed, or if it's home that has changed. Every year I sent silver back home. The family bought 40 acres of paddy fields, built a large tiled house. My sister got married. And my brother took a wife. My grandparents passed away long ago, and my 3 idle uncles all found wives. Their lives are all fairly decent now. Home has become far too unfamiliar to me, and I, too, have become a stranger to my family. My brother's wife is a clever woman, but she is too clever for her own good, always prying into how much my monthly allowance is and how much my dress cost to make. I am too impatient to say much to her, so I just grit my teeth and endure it. In her mouth, I am nothing but a concubine. My father has been the old master for 2 years, yet he has never once asked how his daughter is doing. His only words are, "Please the mistress, serve the master well, and if you manage to get some silver, remember to send more home." He still needs to save up for his grandson's wedding. Whenever my sister sees me, she complains about being poor. My father spent money to get wives for my 3 uncles, but he wouldn't even spare 10 taels of silver for her. It seems those 10 taels of silver were like stones by the roadside, found everywhere. Silver is a good thing, yet not so good after all. It's too shiny, inadvertently illuminating all the twists and turns in people's hearts. My mother passed away years ago, yet no one ever told me. In the cabinet, there are 2 pairs of shoes she made for me, one of them red. She said she'd hurry to make me a red coat for my wedding. The one who loved me left so early, no one could clearly say how she passed away. Whether they were unwilling or afraid to say it no longer matters. She's already gone, what use is there in making it clear? I only stayed for 3 days, left 10 taels of silver, and seeing the disappointment in their eyes, I walked away without looking back. I no longer had a home, nor anything to hold me back. Only when kneeling before my mother's grave did I dare to cry, knowing that only she would understand the hardships I had endured along the way. In early August, I returned to Bianjing. The chrysanthemums in Bianjing were in full bloom, brilliant and glorious. Opening the door, there was steaming hot food, someone waiting for me to come home, and even the bedding carried the scent of sunshine. See, I did not come into this world in vain. Mother, you see, there are indeed people who care for me. I am living well. If you can truly know this, then rest in peace. In the next life, become a bird or a fish. As long as you wish, you can fly as far as you want. Swim as wide as you desire. If you must be a person, and if I can marry a good man, then come be my child. I will surely bring everything you want right before your eyes. I will cherish and love you, making you the happiest and most joyful child in the world. Autumn passed and winter came, and a heavy snow fell in Henan, reportedly freezing countless livestock and people to death. The emperor did not seek ways to provide disaster relief but instead set up a ceremonial altar. Every event has its catalyst. On New Year's Eve, the Grand Princess rebelled, citing the reason that the emperor was a foolish ruler unworthy of the throne, and she intended to emulate Empress Wu Zetian to become a female emperor. She beheaded her own younger brother, and the next day, she died in her own bedchamber. The court officials, led by Grand Secretary Song, unanimously supported the crown prince's succession. In just a few days, the Emperor of Daking had been replaced. The common people cared little about who sat on the throne. As long as they could live well, they would accept even a 3-year-old child as emperor. The crown prince was indeed quite different from his father, who had met an untimely death. Within a few days, he had efficiently arranged disaster relief efforts. Throughout the court, everyone praised His Majesty's wisdom. The refugees outside Bienjing City vanished within a single day. It was said that those who wished to return home were sent back, while those who did not were settled locally, allotted land, and even assisted in building houses. Though I didn't understand the details, judging by such efficiency, the new emperor was clearly no ordinary man. The April breeze was just right. Neither too cold nor too hot. I had just received the delivered fish and shrimp at the back door when Baozhu came rushing over in a flurry. When I asked her what was wrong, she only shed tears, stammering and unable to speak clearly. Thinking something had happened at home, I grabbed her hand and hurried back with her. But when we reached the doorstep, a crowd had gathered to watch the commotion. A carriage was parked at the entrance, and several tall, sturdy horses were tied to the old pear tree. After finally squeezing through the crowd and entering the courtyard, I saw that all the family members were gathered in the yard. Our house was too small, indeed. No room could hold these dozen or so people. I had to bring a chair into the courtyard to speak. The man seated in the center had a pale, beardless face, yet his hair was streaked with grey. Dressed in plain grey cloth robes, he appeared much older than my uncle. I knew he must be a eunuch from the palace. Since he was dressed in ordinary clothes, he surely did not wish to draw attention. I took Baozhu by the hand and went over to pay our respects. Greetings, sir. Our home is humble and cramped. We apologize for the inconvenience. He looked quite amiable, not at all as harsh and sharp-voiced as depicted in the storybooks. He personally helped me up, but I was puzzled and instead turned to help him sit back down. Are you Baoyan, the girl? He actually knew my name, though at my age, being called girl was hardly appropriate anymore. Yes, I am Chen Baoyan. I've heard that your seafood wontons are absolutely superb. Might this old man have the pleasure of tasting them today? He even knows about the seafood wontons. I suspect he must be acquainted with the eldest young master. The seafood we just received this morning is still at the shop. Second brother, go to the shop and fetch it. And have sister he cut 3 catties of pork tenderloin as well. Third brother, come with me to tidy up the main room. It's hardly proper to have a guest dine in the courtyard. After all, his status is such that it wouldn't do to have him eat in the courtyard, would it? The upper room is a bit more spacious, usually occupied by my uncle and aunt. The outer part is the living room, separated by a screen, and inside is the bed. We moved the screen from my and Baozhu's room over, tidied it up a bit, and it's not too shabby to sit and have a meal there. The remaining dozens of guards were arranged in the rooms of my second and eldest brothers. Baozhu followed behind me, wiping her tears. After she finished crying, I asked her what was wrong. She said the old gentleman just now told us that we'll be moving to the capital in a few days, and the eldest brother is already having the house prepared. Are you going, sister? I knew this day would come sooner or later, so I gently stroked her soft hair. How old do you think your sister is? All these years I haven't married because I was waiting for you. Now that your elder brother is taking you to live with him, you should go happily. Your sister is going to marry Dog Egg from the village entrance. Once I'm married, you can come back and live with me anytime you want. How far is it from the capital to Bienjing? Is this really something worth crying over? I kneaded the dough while comforting her. If there really were a Dog Egg from the village entrance, it would be good. At least I could marry him, and then I'd have no more foolish thoughts. But since they were foolish thoughts, they were nothing more than wishful thinking. Sister, you're lying. When did this Dog Egg appear? My mother clearly told you she wanted my elder brother to marry you. If he married you, you'd be my sister-in-law, and you'd come back to the capital with us. I just found out that his name is Wen Su, with the courtesy name Ruchu. If only I had agreed back then. I shook my head with a bitter smile. What if I had agreed? The path to an official career was already difficult, and with that experience of his, it was even harder for him than for others. He ought to marry a wife who could support him. What could I offer him? Besides, he treated me no differently from anyone else. Who said you're foolish? Look at the words you speak, they're actually quite reasonable. I was betrothed to that dog egg since childhood, and when I returned home last year, I found out he still hasn't married and is still waiting for me. How could I let him down? You must never mention what your mother said in front of others, it would ruin your elder brother's reputation. Do you understand? She stammered for a long while. Can I go with you to marry into that dog egg's family? What do you think? Who would marry a bride and end up raising her little sister too? Once we're married back in our hometown, we'll naturally return to Bienjing. The shop is all under my control, you can stay as long as you wish, and I'll take care of you. Baoju is like a child I raised, we have relied on each other for years, and she has always been utterly devoted to me. It's only natural that I find it hard to part with her, even to deliver a message. A palace eunuch came in person, and judging by the eunuch's treatment, he is clearly no ordinary person. For Baoju, going to the capital with the Wen family is truly the best outcome. Apart from the wontons, the rest were just simple home-cooked dishes. After the meal, they were about to return to the capital, but the eunuch wanted to speak with me alone. Only he and I were in the room. He sat while I stood, he looked at me again, and I let him look. Ruchu and His Majesty can be considered as fellow disciples. When His Majesty was the crown prince, he was not well liked and was even once exiled to Shanxi. It was there, at the Shanxi Academy, that he studied. Besides Ruchu, there was also Fei Yang, the youngest son of General Zhu. The three of them became fast friends at first sight. Until the emperor was brought back to the palace, the three of them had been corresponding by letter without interruption. Ruchu, who had shown talent for governing the world from the start, later achieved the top 3 honors in the imperial examinations and entered the Hanlin Academy. The Wen family faced hardships, with countless twists and turns. All for the sake of the emperor. Ruchu even risked his life, while Fei Yang recuperated at the border, which ultimately led to the emperor's current position. How can others compare to the status these two hold in the emperor's heart? Ruchu's future in officialdom is even more limitless. Grand Secretary Song sought the emperor's permission to arrange a marriage, intending to wed his youngest daughter to Ruchu. The emperor summoned Ruchu to ask his opinion. Ruchu replied that he had a loyal servant at home who had taken care of his younger sister and been filial to his parents. Now a 22-year-old woman, if he did not marry her, wouldn't he be an ungrateful and unjust man? The emperor sent me to ask, aside from marrying him, is there any other way to repay this kindness? A loyal servant. You see, in his heart, I am nothing but a servant, not even an ordinary woman. The emperor has already given me enough face, what more can I say? Naturally, there must be a happy ending for all. Grandfather, you worry too much. What I have done is not even 1/10,000th of how the Wen family treated me in the past, so how can there be any talk of gratitude? My father arranged a marriage for me since I was a child. When I returned home last year, he was still waiting to marry me. Baoju and I have relied on each other for years, and naturally, I cannot bear to part with her. Now that the eldest young master has returned to his official career, I have nothing left to worry about. Once they return to the capital, I will go back to my hometown to get married. Grandfather, just pass on a message to the sage. The Wen family owes Baoyin nothing. Today, Baoyin has repaid what she owed the Wen family. If the eldest young master gets married in the future, it would be wonderful if Baoyin could share a cup of wedding wine. I've repeated this lie so many times that I almost believe it myself, as if there really is a Gaodan in the village, waiting faithfully and unwaveringly to marry me. I come from a humble background, but fortunately, I met the Wen family. It was as if my senses were awakened. I came to understand the unpredictability of life and clearly knew what I truly wanted. I want to find a lover, not just a man, a lover who can treat me with sincerity, and be my one and only for a lifetime. If that is not possible, what does it matter even if I deeply love him? Since I can love so deeply, what is there that I cannot let go of? At worst, I'll grow old alone after all. No one knows when their final day will come. Perhaps I won't even live to grow old. You're a bright and open-hearted girl. You'll do well wherever you go. Since that's the case, I'll relay your words exactly to His Majesty. If one day you marry, and I happen to be free, I'll surely come for a cup of wedding wine. Grandfather, just stay healthy, and that day will surely come. I smiled and helped him out the door. After the others had left, I returned to the shop. Business was busy, and it was already midnight by the time I got home. Auntie, however, was waiting for me with an oil lamp lit. Everyone had something to say to me today. But I wasn't really in the mood to talk. She must have been an elegant person in her time. In spring, she would pick peach and pear blossoms, steam and dry them, making a tea that would last the remaining 3 seasons. She brewed peach blossom tea, a bowl of pink tea in white porcelain. Just looking at it, one could tell it would taste wonderful. Baoyin, we will be heading to the capital in 10 days. You should come with us. I still stand by what I said before, if you are willing. I will have Sua marry you, and we will truly become one family. I never expected her to say such words. When I praised the Wen family, I was absolutely right, down to the last word. Her hair had already turned grey. After these days of rest, she had grown a bit plumper and her complexion had lightened. But compared to the elegant lady of an official's household from the old days, she had aged a great deal. Aunt, all these years, his life has been like soaking in bitter water. Now that he has finally gained his freedom, let him do as he wishes. Why force him again? I held Auntie's hand, my head bowed, unable to utter another word. If I spoke again, I wouldn't be able to hold back my tears. But I refused to cry. Tears are the most useless thing in this world. You, child, in the end, it's our Wen family who owes you. From now on, I will be your mother, and your uncle will be your father. You must not cut off this path, if you ever have a moment to spare. Surely you can come home for a visit. I sat by the window all night, unsure whether it was the 15th or 16th day of the month. The moon was as round as a plate, its light cool and clear yet not dim in the slightest. It illuminated the night, yet remained utterly unaware of it. From the next day onward, the entrance to our home was bustling with activity, so crowded that there wasn't even a place to stand. I moved into the shop with Baoju. On the 5th day, my second brother came looking for us. He was always gentle and slow-tempered. I had never seen him lose his temper, but that day, his expression was grim, with dark circles under his eyes so deep they were unsettling. Baoju brought him a bowl of wontons. He finished it in a few bites and asked for another, as if he hadn't eaten for days. Baoyin, mother sent me to call you home. She fell ill yesterday. Relatives with long lost contact with have been showing up one after another. Yesterday, our uncle and his family came and upset mother. This morning, Yunyang returned. Who knows what she said to father and mother, but it made mother faint from anger. They still haven't left and are making a scene at home. Father tried to drive them out with a stick but strained his back and is now bedridden. I've sent our third brother to fetch a doctor. The courtyard gate is broken from all the crowding. Mother said the house is yours and wants you to come back and take charge. His tone was a mix of helplessness and frustration. I had always considered myself an outsider and didn't want to interfere, but I never expected these people to be so shameless. I couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. I didn't want to bring Baoju along, but she insisted on following. The three of us walked quickly and reached home in just a quarter of an hour. The two doors of the house, whether dismantled or truly broken through, were now discarded at the entrance of the alley. With a group of servants sitting on them, cracking melon seeds and gossiping, it seems the Wen family's relatives aren't poor after all. They can even afford servants. When the Wen family fell on hard times, not one of them stepped forward to say a word. Now, probably having heard that the eldest son has made something of himself, they don't dare go to the capital, so they've come here to cause trouble. The main room was packed, with no fewer than 20 men, women, and children seated inside. Uncle was lying in the room of second and third brother, with a crowd standing around on the floor. A child was lying on the bed that belonged to me and Baoju, and the Wen family's eldest daughter, Yunyang, was changing the child's diaper. Who are all of you? What are you doing in our house? Who let you into my and my sister's room? Baoju wouldn't hold back. She rushed in and pulled Yunyang, who was changing the diaper, to her feet, looking fierce and menacing, although she never said it. Yunyang must remember, after all, she is her own elder sister. Others might be excused, and perhaps she truly had her reasons at first, but for a full 8 years, couldn't she spare even a few days to visit? She is no longer the young lady I remember, her hair styled exquisitely, adorned with gleaming gold jewelry, her figure slightly plump, her eyes and brows sharp with pettiness. She is no longer the girl who once captivated time itself, now just one among the crowd. Time is a curious thing, isn't it? Are you Cheongyang? I'm your elder sister. How can you not recognize me? Has your condition worsened? I'm changing your little nephew's diaper. Why are you pulling at me? She wanted to go back, but Boz held on to her tightly, her big, round eyes brimming with tears. My name is Baoju. Whose sister are you? You haven't come for 8 years, disregarding whether your family lives or dies. Why did you come today? And why did you have to make mother and father collapse with anger? Yunyang stiffened, a flicker of panic crossing her face. What Baoju? You are Cheongyang. Sister has had her reasons all these years. Baoju refused to listen any further and dragged her into the courtyard. Everyone in the room followed to watch the commotion, and the room finally fell quiet. I asked third brother to take the physician in to see the patients. Baoju, Won't you let go?" Seeing the two about to come to blows, I feared Baoju would come off worse, with tears welling in her eyes. She sobbed and released her grip, standing beside me pitifully like a little puppy. In the early years, life was tough. Sometimes we didn't know where our next meal was coming from. I saved my rations for her, raising her to be plump and fair like a dumpling, never willing to let her shed a single tear. And now someone else dares to hit her. How can I bear it? I am the one in charge of this household now. If you have any matters, speak to me. I patted Baoju on the head. And she grew even more aggrieved, her lips trembling as tears fell incessantly. "Who are you? How dare you claim authority over the household of the nephew of a minister? You boast without fear of tripping over your own tongue." The woman speaking was in her 40s or 50s, stout and broad-shouldered, likely a relative from Auntie's side of the family. A group of people began to chime in, their clamor giving me a headache. "Who are you? How dare you cause trouble in the Wen family?" Yunyang's opening words were a sharp rebuke. Back then, I was just a lowly maid, so she had long forgotten me. First, I don't know any minister. Second, this courtyard is rented by me. The lease is in my cabinet, for now. It can only be surnamed Chen. Third, I don't have relatives like you. Did you present a name card when you came to my home? Did you get my permission? Since you did neither, can I report you to the authorities for trespassing? Even if we assume the Wen family now lives with me, whether you seek promotion or wealth, if the minister you speak of is the eldest son of the Wen family, shouldn't you go to the minister's residence in the capital to find him? What does it say about you to come here and pressure his parents and siblings, with such well-informed sources? Did you know when the Wen family fell into hardship? I know, you certainly did. Of course, every family has its own difficulties, and the Wen family can understand that, but in all these years, have any of the Wen family ever come to your door? People need face. Trees need bark. Feel your own faces. Are they as thick as city wall bricks, if torn off? Could they add 5 feet to the city wall? And today you dare to show up at my door. I've seen shameless people before, but this level of shamelessness is truly rare. If the eldest son of the Wen family tolerated your past actions, that's one thing. But what if he doesn't? Fortunately, the Wen family has good upbringing. If I were one of them, now that I've gained power, I'd throw all those cold-blooded relatives who used to watch the show into a boiling oil pot just to hear them sizzle and vent my anger. If not that, I'd lock them up in prison for 3 to 5 years. Who doesn't have some dirty secrets that shouldn't be aired in public? Finding a couple of those wouldn't be hard, would it? Children might not know any better, but you're old enough to have beards reaching your waists and dirt piling up to your necks. Are you still acting foolish? Shouldn't you be keeping a low profile now? Do you understand the principle of conserving strength and biding your time? Maybe after a few generations, the Wen family will forget all about the past. Shouldn't you leave a way out for your descendants? Instead, you're ruthless, blocking your own path and sealing off your descendants' futures as well. I've only heard of repaying kindness with enmity, but never of repaying enmity with kindness. If I were you, I'd go home right now and pray every day that the eldest son of the Wen family forgets all about me. After saying all this, my mouth felt dry. When I was young and quarreled in the village, I could curse for an hour without repeating myself and never feel tired. But now that I'm older, just saying these few words has worn me out. Where did you come from, you little brat? I am Darlang's own maternal uncle. Does he dare to bully even his own mother's family? This is the one whose grave is already piled up to his neck, precisely because you're his own uncle. It makes it all the more detestable. Weren't your own sister and brother-in-law the ones who were nearly executed back then? Weren't they your own nephew? How could you be so heartless? At the very least, you could have visited them in prison. Since you chose to prioritize self-preservation over family bonds back then, you have even less right to stand here today and play the uncle. The young master is no longer the same as he was back then. If you still think you can threaten him with family ties and blood relations, you're sorely mistaken. He has made it this far all on his own. Do you still think he's someone to be trifled with? Go home, take some medicine, and clear your head. In just a moment, most people in the courtyard had left. The few who remained were those who followed Yunyang, as WN Sue's own sister. How to handle this was a matter for the WN family. And I didn't want to say more. In any case, if someone is shameless and believes they won't die easily, then they're probably invincible. The doctor happened to come out just then. I asked about Uncle's injury. It was just a case of knocked out breath, and applying 2 plasters with a couple days rest would suffice. Aunt, however, was overwhelmed with anger and needed medicine to regulate her condition first. Third brother went along to get the medicine. The house was left in complete disarray. By the time second brother Boz and I finished cleaning up, It was already pitch dark outside. Yunyang sent away the people who had come with her but firmly occupied mine and Boz's bed with her nursing infant. In the evening, we made porridge and bought some steamed buns. She ate with a sense of entitlement. As if it were only natural, I had intended to return to the shop, but fearing she might upset the two elders again, I decided to squeeze into a bed with Aunt Baozhu and set up a wooden plank in the study for third brother, laying 2 layers of bedding and bringing a thick quilt. Second brother and uncle squeezed into another bed together. Before we could even settle down to sleep, Yunyang, after putting the child to sleep, came again. With a thud, she knelt on the ground, calling out mother through tears and sobs. Uncle must have heard the commotion, for he came with second brother and third brother. Holding his waist, I had intended to slip away, but second brother wouldn't allow it and made me sit on the bed. Some of the family stood, some sat, only Yunyang was kneeling. Uncle told second brother to bring a chair for her and asked her to sit down. Uncle leaned on third brother's shoulder as he sat. Baozhu and I knelt on the bed, still in our clothes, not yet changed. Aunt couldn't get up, she lay with her eyes closed. 2 pools of tears welling in their hollows, a sight that tugged at the heart and pained the soul. Baozhu took out a handkerchief to wipe her mother's tears, murmuring mother softly under her breath. Others I can let it pass. Baoyan has been sent away, and I won't say more about that. But you are the one your mother risked her life to bring into this world after bearing 3 sons in a row. She cherished you like a pearl, giving you the very best our family had. Your 3 older brothers were sent to Shanxi for schooling once they turned 12. As sons, they couldn't be coddled. Aside from their tuition, your mother and I gave them only 5 taels of silver a year. Yet every time they returned home, did they ever fail to bring gifts for the family? Those were all saved from their own meager allowances. But you, if you wanted to learn the qin, you'd set your heart on one costing hundreds of taels and demand to buy it. Did your mother or I ever refuse? How much silver did we spend each year on your qin teacher? You had new clothes and jewelry made every season. Others praised you as cultured and refined, but they didn't know how willful and indulgent you were. By the time your mother and I realized it, it was already too late. Back then, we considered countless families before settling on the secretary of the Grand Secretariat for you. The only reason they agreed to the match was because his younger brother was a classmate of your second brother's. And they admired the integrity of your 3 older brothers, not because of any exceptional talent of yours. Yet you refused to the point of life and death simply because you found him ugly. And in the end, you privately pledged yourself to that Su Jiaxing. His father and I passed the imperial exams in the same year, but is only a 7th-rank official who spends his days carousing in brothels and keeps 7 or 8 concubines at home. What does Su Jiaxing have besides a handsome face? He's the same age as your eldest brother, yet after years of studying, he's only managed to become a licentiate. Your mother-in-law is notoriously unreasonable. Didn't I warn you before you married? Once you were wed, your mother nearly emptied our home to provide your dowry. No matter how hard it got, you had to endure it on your own. When our family suddenly fell into misfortune, everyone was arrested, only Cheongyang was spared. Your eldest brother wasn't imprisoned with us initially. Your mother thought he was dead and cried until she nearly went blind. It was only when we learned he was still alive that she improved somewhat. Your father and I were also worried about Cheongyang, just 7 years old, fearing she might have been sold off. Your second and third brothers were beaten daily. Have you ever eaten moldy buns for 2 meals a day? Have you ever drunk rice soup so thin you could see your reflection? We all knew the Wen family was disgraced and that you were struggling in the Su household. None of us blamed you. Didn't you ask who she is? She is the one who saved the lives of my entire Wen family. A year later, she brought Cheongyang to visit us. At that time, she was just a half-grown girl herself. Fearing someone might come for Cheongyang, she changed her name to Baozhu. Though she was as thin and tall as a bamboo pole, she raised Baozhu to be plump and round like a dumpling. She also sewed winter coats for each of us, brought wine and food, and even slipped money to the jailer to hire a physician to treat your mother. If not for her, your mother would have died of illness that year. For years, rain or shine, she never failed to provide us with food, clothing, and necessities. Even remembering to bring knee pads, your eldest brother saved our lives, and she ensured we lacked nothing. For 6 whole years, you never once came to see us, since you didn't come then. You shouldn't come now. You're here for the Su family's sake, and today, on behalf of my eldest son, I agree to it. Whether it's your father-in-law or your husband who wants a promotion, my son will recommend one of them. Once you've decided, send word. From now on, you and the Wen family have no further ties. If Chen Baoyan cannot become the matriarch of the Wen family in the future, She will be the Wen family's only honored elder sister, no matter when. She will always have a say in the family's affairs. Leave at first light tomorrow. Today, your bond with the Wen family is severed. The Wen family owes you nothing more. Whether your future is good or bad depends entirely on yourself. In the room, aside from the sound of breathing, even a needle dropping to the floor could be heard clearly. The silence was eerily unsettling. Yunyang threw herself onto the bed, crying her heart out. Mother, did you hear what father said? He doesn't even want his own daughter anymore. Mother, say something. Your father's will is mine as well. Go, I'm tired and want to sleep. Auntie did indeed look exhausted. How could Yunyang's strength compare to mine? I got out of bed and, half supporting and half dragging her, sent her back to her room. She wailed at the top of her lungs, so loudly it shook the heavens. Not even caring that her son was crying in his bed, I held back again and again with her today. But I really couldn't take it anymore. I slapped her in return, and finally, it was quiet. Let me tell you quietly, if you still want to cling to the Wen family, do you believe that what uncle promised might not count? She seemed to be stunned by the slap. I whispered these words in her ear, and she suddenly seemed to come back to her senses, her eyes red with rage. She tried to hit me, but I grabbed her hand. I not only have a bad temper, but I also love to oppose others. How about I find someone to kill your husband first? Will you then remain a widow in the Su family or return to your maiden home? But by then, you'll have no maiden home to return to. Think about your mother-in-law. If she finds out you caused her son's death, won't she tear you apart? If I were you, I'd know when to stop. Your elder brother has sacrificed so much to get to where he is today and to keep the Wen family alive, since you've never shown him any compassion. What right do you have to reach out and pluck the fruits he cultivated with his own flesh and blood? I gave her a push, and she fell to the ground. Early the next morning, Yunyang left. I woke up late and didn't even get to see her. After more than 10 days of recuperation, the two elderly folks gradually recovered. No one else came to the house. When Su sent someone to fetch them, how could they not miss their son, whom they hadn't seen in 10 years? There wasn't much to pack. They could leave as soon as the carriage was ready. Have you remembered everything I said? The capital is not like here. You must listen to mother. Once your elder sister returns to our hometown to get married and comes to Bianjing, she will come to the capital to fetch you. You will live at her place, for as long as you wish. Your elder sister will take care of you. These were the words I used to coax Baozhu. She was crying and refusing to get on the carriage, so I smiled and comforted her. I don't know when I'll see her again, perhaps only when I finally marry Go Dan and am truly able to let go of him. The carriage carrying the Wen family faded into the distance, as if taking all my strength with it. I lay in bed for 2 full days, then packed my luggage, had a meal, and left the shop to Madam He. Time is too thin, and fingers too wide. 2 years have passed in the blink of an eye. The East Sea is a world away from the capital, in the fishing village where I live. Some don't even know the current era name. I've ended up an old maid. Even as an old maid, I never managed to find Go Dan. After all, the one I met was too dazzling. Spring blossoms and autumn moons couldn't compare to him in the slightest. Everyone else seems like a pile of rotten cabbage. How could I bring myself to take a bite? I'm not in a position to look down on others either. At best, I'm just a not-so-pretty pig. Please understand my desire to nudge a good cabbage. After all, a pig's thoughts are just that simple. In this life, I probably only yearn for one good cabbage. I carried the hundreds of pearls I had collected over the past 2 years. The best ones were naturally to be offered as tribute to the imperial court, but the second best ones were probably all in my possession. By the time I slowly made my way to the capital, it was already a snowy winter day. The pearls in my bag were long gone, replaced by a few light banknotes tucked in my chest. The silver gave me a sense of security, and now I had the capital to open a shop in the capital and even buy a storefront. By the time I settled down and found out where the Wen family was, it happened to be the day of the winter solstice. On the winter solstice, people offer sacrifices and pay respects to their teachers. But have you ever heard of a married woman returning to her maiden home? When it comes to Wen Su, anyone in the capital could talk about him for half an hour. Throughout all dynasties, there has never been a minister of revenue as young and capable as him. The national treasury is now extremely abundant. Even the emperor's private coffers are overflowing. Taxes have been reduced for 2 years, and I just want to know where all the money in the treasury comes from. The key point is that he remains the most handsome and highest-ranking bachelor in Daking. Which family with a daughter wouldn't want him as a son-in-law? Rumors also say he has a hidden ailment, either being a cut sleeve or suffering from impotence. I just want to ask, what about the youngest daughter of the Song family? And where does this talk of him being a cut sleeve and impotent come from? But a man so outstanding and still unmarried at 31 does indeed give rise to many speculations. I am well aware of his past. Could it be that he has truly suffered a psychological shock and can no longer like women? Or is it really impotence? Though these are just speculations, they seem quite reasonable. The Wen residence was truly easy to find. It was the fourth house to the east at the foot of the imperial city wall. It was said that its neighbors were the Prince of Huai's mansion and the residence of Grand Secretary Song. Making it clear just how blatantly and outrageously the emperor favored him, there was no fancy plaque at the door, only the simple, slender characters of Wen residence, and I knew at once it was his handwriting. The stone lions at the entrance looked majestic and imposing, making my timid, peeking self appear utterly wretched. It seemed that the Wen residence received a great many visitors daily, as the gatekeeper stared at me with a blank, expressionless face. I have no formal invitation nor any introduction, and today is the winter solstice, so the minister should be on a 3-day holiday. Getting through this door is likely to be extremely difficult. The gatekeeper looked at me over and over, then pulled a piece of paper from his pocket. After reading it, he looked at me again. Before I could even speak, he let out a howl and ran off, startling me. The eldest aunt is back. The eldest aunt is back. Probably half the capital heard it. What an extraordinary lady the Wen family has, not to mention her returning to her parents' home on the winter solstice. She even startled half the capital's hidden crows from their hiding spots. Then a group of servants rushed out, led by a man who looked like a steward. After all, being able to smile with a face full of wrinkles at anyone is the most basic quality of a steward. His grin was so wide that it frightened me. I haven't broken any laws or committed any crimes in the past 2 years, so why is his smile so eerie? But once inside, it wasn't as luxurious as I had imagined. Everything was simple, yet nothing was ordinary. The Minister of Revenue manages the treasury. So isn't such understated elegance a bit out of character for his status? Passing through the entrance hall and the corridor, the courtyards in the capital are always so perfectly square. The front courtyard is mainly used for official business, while the rear courtyard is where people reside. Before I could even step into the backyard, someone blocked me at the moon gate. After years apart, some remain as elegant and noble as ever, their aura even more refined than before, while others have faces as dark as soot, and despite their efforts to tidy up, they still manage to be ugly in a colorful way. I didn't expect him to be the first to come out. He must have been in his room just before, wearing only a brocade white robe with a white jade belt around his waist. Hanging from the belt was a piece of green jade, intricately carved into a ruyi knot, both exquisite and beautiful. He furrowed his brows, his peach blossom eyes slightly narrowed, the mole at the corner of his mouth still captivating. Time is always particularly forgiving to those who are good-looking. He really hasn't changed much. I curled my lips and called out loudly, "Eldest young master." When it comes to the Wen family, he is the one I am least familiar with. I can call the second and third brothers by their titles, but I just can't bring myself to call him eldest brother. What's this? Finally remembered to come back home, he clenched his jaw, his words laced with sarcasm. "Yes, it is my parents' home. Can't I come back whenever I want?" I replied with a tone that was neither soft nor harsh. I had just arrived and hadn't provoked him. Why was he taking his anger out on me? I was the one who felt wronged. It seems marriage has given you quite the confidence. Daring to talk back now. Where's that good-for-nothing husband of yours? There are only the two of us at home. If we both came, who would look after the child? To hell with your good-for-nothing husband. You certainly have a good memory. He frowned, looking utterly exhausted. I really didn't want to argue with him. But the words loyal servant echoed in my mind like a curse, always shattering my patience in an instant. "How have you been? Why do you look darker and thinner?" he finally asked calmly. I nodded. "Everything is fine, except that he is not here. And you, are you well?" "As you can see, I am now the Minister of Revenue. How could I not be well? Indeed, he is now doing everything he wants to do, and no one can force him anymore. What could be wrong with that? I'm going to the backyard to see father and mother. I am now the eldest daughter-in-law of the Wen family. Wouldn't it be too distant to still call them uncle and aunt?" "Go ahead." I turned and entered the door. A group of servants escorted me as if I were a prisoner, afraid that I might run away. But since I've already come, where else could I possibly go? "Baoyan, my son, you wretched scoundrel, why haven't you come to let your mother see you?" Mother had grown fairer in complexion. Though more white hair had appeared, and she was still thin, she was only 50 this year. Yet she already looked like a kind old lady. She wore dark-colored robes with a cloak of the same color trimmed with white fox fur over her shoulders. On her forehead band was a ruby the size of a pigeon's egg. I rushed over and knelt before the old lady, not daring to lift my head or make a sound, letting her gently pound my shoulders with her fists. How terrifying is the passage of time. After spending so much time together, even without blood ties, a familial bond can grow. Isn't this my mother? A daughter who left home for 2 years without a word, a scolding or a few hits are the least she deserves. You wretched child, do you truly mean to worry your father and me to death? Mother, I was wrong. I won't dare do it again. Just hit me until you're satisfied. I took her hand, placed it on my chest, and held back tears as I looked at her. Yet she pulled me into her embrace, her aged face streaked with tears. You wretched creature, you're practically driving your father and me to our graves. Your eldest brother sent someone to Bienjing to fetch you, only to be told you'd return to our hometown. They searched the old home, but you weren't there either. They scoured every possible place, yet found no trace of you. We all thought you had died out there. Who would have thought you wretched thing would still know how to come home? So they did look for me. Then why did she just ask so seriously about that Gowden husband? And why did I just spout such nonsense with a straight face? Mother, don't you know I was born in the year of the monkey? How could I die so easily? Please don't be angry, Mother. It's not worth ruining your health over a scoundrel like me. When my brothers return, won't they just beat me? I stood up and hugged my mother, shaking her back and forth. Are you trying to shake a tree like a bear? Let go already, you're about to shake it apart. I stopped shaking then, resting my chin on her shoulder. Mother, you don't know how much I've missed you all, but there were always reasons I couldn't return home, because I hadn't yet been able to convince myself to give up, and I still lacked the courage to face it. If you missed us, why did it take you so long to come home? Look how thin you've become. Your chin is so sharp it could stab someone to death. Now that you're home, I'll definitely fatten you up until you're fair and plump. Mother patted my back, her touch both warm and reassuring. No wonder they say the moon is brightest in one's hometown. It's truly good to have a home. It's too cold outside. Come inside. I won't leave again. There are many days ahead, and Mother can raise me however she wishes. I helped Mother inside, took off her cloak, and got her onto the heated kang. The underfloor heating was still on, and a wave of warmth greeted us. A maid took my cloak, and Mother pulled me onto the kang. I noticed another young woman standing there, slightly younger than me, with an oval face, almond-shaped eyes, slightly dark skin, and a small, delicate mouth. She wore her hair in a married woman's style. Judging by her attire, she must be the lady of the house. I didn't know her identity, so I didn't dare to climb onto the kang recklessly. She is Huanyang, second brother's wife. They got married last year. I quickly bowed in greeting and called her second sister-in-law. She promptly reached out to help me up. The young lady returning to her maternal home is the most honored guest. Why stand on ceremony? Please, sit down quickly. The family has been missing you, and we didn't expect you to return today. I've already sent someone to the Prince of Huai's residence to fetch Baozhu. If she hasn't gone to the palace, she should be here in at most half an hour. When she sees you, who knows what kind of fuss she'll make. You'd better save your energy to coax her, second sister-in-law said with a laugh. Clearly a straightforward person, well-mannered and poised, undoubtedly from a well-bred family. Second brother is so reserved, he really ought to marry someone as direct and decisive as her. Baozhu actually became a princess consort. I didn't hesitate and followed her onto the kang, pulling second sister-in-law to sit down as well. She's also quite a handful. By the time the family found out, she was already pregnant. Your eldest brother tied up Prince Huai and sent him to the palace. He's only 2 months younger than your second brother. The emperor gave him a good whipping with a whip, and he knelt in the hall for 3 days. The emperor couldn't bear it and summoned your eldest brother to the palace, where they finally settled on the marriage. Don't worry about her, she's carrying a child now. Who can do anything to her? Mother's words sounded like complaints, but they also seemed like boasting. Baozhu married so well, it's truly something to be happy about. Is it because she's pregnant that she's like that? The Prince of Huai treats her like a precious pearl, guarding her as if she were the apple of his eye, and he only has one pair of eyes. Yet she alone is cherished so dearly. The prince was originally stationed in northern Liao, but with her due date approaching, he postponed his departure from the capital again and again. Now it's even better you've returned. If the prince tries to take Baozhu away now, it's likely impossible. Your 3 older brothers, unhappy about her pregnancy before marriage, have been urging Baozhu to send the prince away every day. Now, leaving seems out of the question. It looks like our northern Liao border will need a new general, said second sister-in-law. I gave her the name Baozhu, hoping she would one day marry someone who would treat her this way. That man truly treats her well, and that is enough. Your older brothers, at their age, still don't understand a thing. The prince treats Baoju with all his heart and soul. Where else could you find such a talented and devoted husband? What more could they possibly want? Mother scolded with a laugh. The maid poured tea and set out pastries and fruits. Mother handed me a peach blossom pastry. Something I loved to eat back in Bianjing, where I would queue up every day at Xianghezhai to buy them. Mother probably doesn't realize, they're just jealous. After all, they're all getting on in years. Yet they never expected the little sister to beat them to it, not only marrying first but also getting pregnant first. How could they accept that? Mother, jealousy makes people wicked, don't you think? I took a bite of the peach blossom pastry. It still tasted just like it used to. Imagining them giving my brother-in-law a hard time and egging my sister on, I couldn't help but burst out laughing. Mother thought for a moment and couldn't help but laugh too. Second sister-in-law covered her mouth with a handkerchief, her shoulders shaking uncontrollably. And even the maids waiting on us were stifling their giggles. 3 old, wicked men, who can't get their own act together yet envy others. Isn't that ridiculous? My son is back. Father's voice came from outside the door. I hurriedly got off the kang and knelt properly on the ground. Yes, your unfilial daughter Baoyan has returned. Father entered the room. He looked the same as before, but in high spirits. He had grown a beard and, seeing me kneeling, reached out to help me up. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. I thought I had lost you. How have you gotten so thin? Perhaps in the eyes of parents, no matter how plump you are, they always think you're too thin. I helped father onto the kang and he sat cross-legged, then asked me to sit beside him. I knelt by his side and briefly recounted the events of the past 2 years, though there wasn't much worth telling. You've been to so many places, you've truly seen the world, you must have suffered a great deal. From now on, stay home peacefully for a while and keep me and your mother company. Father patted my head. Though I'm already a 25-year-old woman, there are still people who cherish and spoil me. I am truly blessed, aren't I? Yes, I won't travel far from now on. I'll stay home peacefully and keep you and mother company. Have you eaten the peach blossom pastries? Aren't they your favorite? You queue up every day to buy them, and with a cup of peach blossom tea. You can devour 4 or 5 in one go. I was just eating when you arrived. Let her have some pastries and tea first. It's hard to find something that suits your taste when you're away from home, Mother said, handing me the teacup. I ate 3 pieces with the tea before Mother stopped me, worried that I'd eat too much and not have room for the meal later. Second brother and third brother arrived. Father didn't make me get off the kang to greet them. They weren't offered a place on the kang. The maid brought 2 square stools for them to sit on. Second brother passed the imperial examination last year and came in third, now serving in the Hanlin Academy. But he's obsessed with compiling historical records, to the point of being a bit fanatical. Father says he won't force him. He can do whatever he likes. He still has that gentle and refined demeanor. The Wen family is known for their good looks, and second brother loves to smile. His smile is warm. And he speaks calmly and unhurriedly, making people feel as if bathed in a gentle spring breeze. Third brother takes more after father, taller, stronger, and with a straightforward personality. He's the only one in the Wen family who doesn't enjoy studying. Now he works in the Ministry of Works, busy building houses for the emperor. I really admire him for that. Disappointed in third brother. In the end, he became a bricklayer. Third brother rubbed the back of his head, smiling rather bashfully. I can't agree with that. The kind of bricklayer third brother is talking about can build majestic imperial palaces and picturesque gardens, things others can't even imagine. And my third brother can actually create them. Just think how amazing that is. Third brother's eyes lit up, and he pursed his lips into a smile. All the young men of the Wen family are remarkable people. No matter what they do, they are bound to be the best, far surpassing what others can achieve. A fleshy ball nimbly darted between my 2 elder brothers, hopped onto the kang, and pounced on me, knocking me flat on my back. Elder sister, you liar, you promised that once you got married, you'd take me to Bianjing. Where did you marry off to? How come it's been over 2 years before you came back? This fleshy ball was the girl I raised. If we're talking about missing someone, I missed her the most. I never thought that now, when she's almost a mother herself. She'd still be like this. What am I to say? I had even thought of holding her and having a good cry, but one look at her little face, and not a single tear would fall from my eyes. How is this possible? How can a pregnant woman have such a rosy complexion? Apart from her belly, Baoju hasn't changed much at all. Even now that she's married, she still wears the same long braid I often used to style for her, exactly like mine. She whimpers when she cries, like she's acting spoiled, utterly adorable. It's all my fault for coming back so late. Next time I leave, I'll definitely take you with me. The handsome man in black standing by the kangaroo even more grim-faced. I knew who he was, so I didn't dare say any more. Abducting the princess consort was out of the question. My head may not be worth much, but it's still important to me. If you lie to me again, sister, you'll be a little dog. Your sister is a pig, not a dog, who said her foolishness was cured. She's already 20 years old. How can she still say such deadly words so easily? When did the little dumpling I raised become so unreasonable? I finally managed to comfort Baoju, and naturally, I should pay my respects to the prince, but Baoju was clinging tightly to my arm, her eyes fixed on me like two lanterns. How could I possibly get off the kang? Family doesn't stand on ceremony, eldest sister, just stay seated. The prince spoke up to ease my embarrassment. Eldest sister, how dare I accept such a title? He is the same age as my second brother, Jinhua. Bring him a stool and have him sit with the brothers. It seems that in our Wen family, even a prince has no right to sit on the heated bed. I noticed that no one else bowed to him, and the prince was extremely polite, addressing each person by name. I patted my family's treasure, thinking she has a good way with her husband. Well done. The family sat chatting idly, but he arrived late. The prince called him, but he didn't even spare a glance. Looking so infuriating that one couldn't help but want to kick him, he sat himself down quite comfortably, plopping right on the edge of the kang. Elder brother, aren't you going to get down? Father said that only my sister and I are allowed on his and mother's kang. Go sit with them. Baoju spoke with her chin raised, sounding perfectly reasonable. I gritted my teeth to hold back a laugh. You just made her husband look foolish, and now look at her, she's already getting back at you. Thick-skinned, he leisurely stood up, his peach blossom eyes sweeping over me and Baoju. I also raised my chin to look at him. Weren't you so capable? In the end, there are still things I can do that you can't. A glimmer of light flashed in his eyes, and he actually smiled. His smile held a breathtaking beauty. I really did forget our family is different from others. The young mistress is the most valuable, he said slowly, then asked his second sister-in-law when dinner would be served. It was almost dark. How had dinner time come so quickly? The family gathered around the table for a meal. The Wen family had no rule about not speaking during meals or in bed, or perhaps they once did, but after going through life and death, rigid rules didn't seem to matter as much anymore. The dishes were plentiful, some I had tasted before, but most I had never tried. Father was in high spirits and wanted to have a few drinks. How could his sons and sons-in-law not join him? Father and mother took the seats of honor. I sat beside mother, Baoju beside me, and second sister-in-law beside Baoju. Even though it was a round table, there was no rule about sitting this way, but who could argue when Baoju and I were the most treasured young ladies of the household? We huddled together chatting, and I recounted once more where I had been and what I had done. I also want to see the ocean. After I give birth, will you take me with you, sister? Baoju asked fearlessly. I glanced at the prince. Whether it was my own guilt or something else, I felt his face was growing darker. I didn't dare say more and picked up some food for her with my chopsticks. Sister, I want to eat the wontons you make, she said coquettishly. Right now, I'll make it for you. What filling would you like, vegetarian or meat, with scallions or not? I say, Your Highness, why don't you take your princess back home? My elder sister-in-law just arrived, and she's already ordering her around. If she wants to eat something, she can make it herself back at your place. Wen Su's tone was quite stern, but I noticed the prince seemed rather pleased. Only Baoju had tears welling up in her eyes, looking at Wen Su and then pitifully at me. I won't eat any more, sister. Please don't let big brother send me away. She looked as if she had been mistreated in the prince's mansion. Don't cry. After we finish dinner and let the food settle, your sister will make it for you as a midnight snack. Alright, you're pregnant now, you can't cry at the drop of a hat. When you give birth, if your child also cries so easily, do you think you'll have the patience to comfort them? If you feel wronged and cry along with them, will the prince comfort you or the child? You should smile more, so you'll have a cheerful child. When you cry, they can comfort you together with the prince. She tilted her head and thought for a moment, wiped away her tears, and happily started eating again. When it comes to comforting her, only her sister is the most effective. Mother patted Baoju's head. Mother, it's because everything my sister says makes sense. When I was little and my sister used to put me to sleep, I had just been separated from you all and was always scared and wanted to cry. My sister said that if I felt like crying, I should think about how you all used to smile at me, and naturally I would smile too. I did as my sister said, and I really wasn't scared anymore, and I learned to smile. I asked my sister why that was. She said it's because I was thinking of the people who love me, and they smiled at me because they wanted me to be happy. Since I love them too, I learned to smile. That was a long time ago, I almost forgot. Back then, I hadn't yet taken up the work of a boatwoman. Because I had some strength, I moved cargo at the dock, and at night, with the owner's permission, I slept in the dock warehouse. Baoju was still young and afraid of the dark, crying often. I used these words to comfort her, never thinking she would still remember them to this day. Yes, your older sister is right. You should listen to her more, father said. It wasn't that I was right, these were all excuses I made for myself in my youth. When I ventured alone to a foreign land, trying to appear brave, our Baoju no longer needs to do that anymore. The one who loves you is always by your side, guarding you. He can protect you completely, light a lamp for you in the dark, hold an umbrella for you in the rain, and add clothes for you when it's cold. With him by your side, our Baoju only needs to live happily and carefree. Although every day may seem ordinary, with him around, even the most ordinary days are good days. As if she understood, she turned to glance at the prince, then looked back at me, her cheeks flushed with 2 rosy blushes, breathtakingly beautiful. I patted the top of her head. There will always be someone to accompany you through a long life. If he loves you, just love him back without overthinking it. After the meal, Baoju and I stood under the eaves watching the snow. It never snows in Donghai. Father had too much to drink and had already gone to bed, so mother stayed by his side, worried that he might feel unwell. Second sister-in-law, after being busy for half the day, went to the kitchen again, saying she needed to prepare ingredients, as I would be making wontons later. The rest of the people stayed with us to watch the snow. I reached out and caught a snowflake, and Baoju imitated me, catching one too. The snow melted into water in her palm. And she walked over to show it to the prince. She has grown up after all. The things that amaze and delight her now have someone to share them with. The way the prince looks at her is filled with unmistakable, unconcealable joy. From now on, you all should treat the prince better, I said gloomily. It's just that he married our precious sister and can't get over his resentment, third brother said. Second brother also married another family's precious daughter. Does he receive the same treatment when he goes to his father-in-law's house? Even worse than this, he drank so much that he couldn't get out of bed for 3 days. Second sister-in-law has 5 older brothers from her own family. Third brother also said gloomily. Alright, pretend I said nothing. When you take a wife in the future, you must find one with few brothers, so you'll have fewer worries about your life, I said to third brother. You make a very good point, little sister. But why didn't you mention eldest brother? I glanced at Wensu standing not far away, draped in a black cloak with a large white fox fur collar, standing there under the eaves. He was like a scene of romance and elegance. Third brother, just look at him and think about how capable he is. Who could possibly bully him? If it were me, I certainly wouldn't let anyone bully him. Baoyin, come with me to the study. I have something to say to you. This was the first time he spoke to me so seriously. I didn't know what he wanted to say, but I still followed him step by step. His back was straight, his shoulders broad, and he walked with a relaxed, casual grace, yet he looked incredibly handsome. Just from his silhouette, you could tell he was a beauty. The study was in the front courtyard, not far away, but by the time we arrived, our hair had already turned mostly white. Today, sharing the snowfall, we might as well have grown old together, so be it. Since I am to be the eldest lady of the Wen family, Wensu can only be my elder brother, nothing more need be said. The study was spacious, filled to the brim with books neatly organized by category, a redwood desk with only one chair, on which, besides writing brushes, ink, inkstone, and paper, were also many calling cards. It seemed this study was usually for his use alone. There was originally a page boy attending in the study, but he left as soon as I entered. The underfloor heating was very warm, so I took off my cloak and held it, while he took his off and hung it on a rack. It seemed we would be here for quite some time, so I hung my cloak up as well. He was flipping through the calling cards, and I, feeling bored, found a travelogue on the bookshelf and sprawled over the desk to read it. Since there was only one chair, I had to stand and lean over. In truth, I could only recognize a limited number of characters, so I mostly relied on guessing. You can already read travelogues on your own, making educated guesses. After all, there are pictures. To get comfortable while lying down, I placed the book a bit farther away, though it was actually quite close to him. With just a turn of my head, I could clearly see his nearly perfect profile. I stared, momentarily entranced. Unexpectedly, he suddenly turned to look at me, flustered. I lowered my head and pretended to be reading. Song Deban has come to Bienjing. I heard the emperor sent you a message. Is it because of his words or something else that you don't want to marry me? He spoke with utmost seriousness as the sky gradually darkened. The study was unlit. his features sharply defined, his voice deep and low. "When did I ever say I didn't want to marry you?" I asked him in confusion. From beginning to end, no one had ever asked me whether I wanted to marry him. I turned down the marriage proposal from the Song family's elder statesman just to marry you, yet to avoid wedding me, you went so far as to fabricate a childhood engagement, even daring to deceive the emperor. You left for 2 whole years. Did you only return because you assumed I'd already married? The corners of his mouth lifted, his eyes narrowing slightly, dangerous and chilling. "Why do you want to marry me?" I looked at him, refusing to back down even though I was afraid. From his words, it seemed he was deeply devoted to me, insisting on no one else. "Is it to repay a favor? But I've already said, you don't owe me anything. There's no need to offer yourself in return." I bit my lip and looked at him. "You don't want to marry me, is it because you think I'm tainted?" He lowered his long eyelashes, his voice gradually fading. For a moment, I didn't understand what he meant. When I finally understood, I was startled. Could he really be thinking that? Why on earth did his thoughts go there? "Where are you, dirty? Here, or here?" Perhaps the darkening sky gave me the audacity. I actually kissed his eyes, then the tip of his nose, and finally pressed my lips to his. He was thunderstruck, his eyes widening in shock. Seeing his reaction, I didn't even grab my cloak. Turned around, and ran. I wish I could slap myself a few times. Why can't I just let go? My audacity is as vast as the sky, yet I didn't consider who he is. He's not just any ordinary cabbage, he's a cabbage planted on a high peak. Who's ever heard of a pig that can climb mountains? Isn't this just rushing to my doom? In the following days, I stayed close to Baoju, eating and sleeping together. I saw him a few times but didn't dare to look up again. As soon as he left for court, I immediately moved into the Huai prince's residence with Baoju and stayed there for 10 days. I made up my mind, if he didn't bring it up, I'd let it pass. But if he dared mention it again, I'd play dumb to the end, just grit my teeth and deny everything. What could he do to me? On the 11th day, the former chief steward Song actually came to the prince's residence in person, saying the empress wanted to see me. Thinking about it, I was just a village girl, then a maid, and later a cook. The boldest thing I'd ever done was kiss Wen Su, and now I was going to see the empress. Why was I so scared? I wanted to take Baoju with me. But eunuch Song wouldn't allow it. I said I needed to go home to change clothes, but eunuch Song said it wasn't necessary, cutting off even my path to seek help. Following eunuch Song all the way, I felt my calves cramping up. After 2 years apart, Baoyan girl is still the same as ever. Grandfather, however, looks much healthier. What's the matter? Did you end up marrying that dog egg, Grandpa? You clearly know that dog egg was just a name I made up. I only pretended to believe it to protect Wen Su. There's been a story circulating in Bianjing these past 2 years. They say there's a Lady Chen living in Tanghua Alley who's so skilled at scolding people that it's both thrilling and captivating. I heard that on that day, the alley was completely blocked by onlookers. I recall that Baoyan happens to be surnamed Chen, and she also happens to live in Tanghua Alley, doesn't she, Grandpa? You're already so old, don't go spreading rumors like everyone else. It's not true at all. His Majesty heard about this and specifically sent for the second young master. The second young master has an excellent memory and recounted the events of that day word for word. Coincidentally, Her Majesty the Empress Dowager was also present and relayed the matter to Her Majesty the Empress. The Empress then shared it with the other ladies of the inner palace. Now, whenever any of the palace ladies cause trouble, the Empress reminds them of the incident where the Emperor intended to bring you into the palace. As a result, the inner court has become quite harmonious, all thanks to you, Grandfather. Please don't scare me, I'm timid and easily frightened. How could I, just minding my own business in Bianjing, possibly offend the ladies of the capital's inner court? If you take me to the inner palace now, won't the ladies have me beaten to death? What are you afraid of? Minister Wen is backing you, and Minister Wen is backed by the Emperor, which is essentially the same as the Emperor backing you. Grandfather, that equivalence of yours is far too hasty, but before you see the Empress, you probably need to meet the Emperor first. After all, he's been wanting to see you for 2 years now. Grandpa, could you please not say such ambiguous things? The Emperor is indeed waiting for me in the imperial study, my legs trembling. I knelt on the ground, but no one told me to rise for a long time. Rise. The voice sounded quite amiable. I stood up, still not daring to raise my head. No one had taught me the palace rules, so naturally, I didn't know them, but the imperial countenance must not be offended. Aren't you going to lift your head and let me have a look? What the Emperor says is an imperial decree. Since the Emperor ordered me to raise my head, how could I not comply? I slowly lifted my head. The emperor looked rather ordinary, yet he carried a presence that made it immediately clear he was the son of heaven. His features were unremarkable, but his aura was extraordinary. I heard Ruchu and Daban say you were fair-skinned, even fairer than Ruchu by a third. How did your face get so dark? Did you smear soot on it to deceive me again? Your Majesty worries too much. This humble subject has just returned from the East Sea. The darkness is from the sea breeze, it will fade with a little care. Besides, who could apply soot so evenly? And it's only a little bit dark, isn't it? Where is your Godan, Your Majesty? Please forgive me, what else could I say? It seemed this matter of Godan was unavoidable. Even though everyone understood the truth deep down, they all insisted on pretending otherwise. I called you here today to discuss something. Ruchu is already 31 this year, the same age as I am. My eldest son is 13, yet he remains all alone, seemingly uninterested in marriage with his ascetic demeanor. I've heard you are now the eldest lady of the Wen family, and everyone in the household listens to you. I intend to arrange another marriage for him. Ask him whom he fancies, even if it's a man. I'll accept it, as long as he is happy. Moreover, you are aware of his past. There's a censor in the censorate who loves to bring up his history during court sessions for no reason. I've stopped him several times, but censors are meant to speak. How can I forbid him from talking? I know you've been scolding people in Bienjing, and your words are so sharp they could be written into books. Today, I'll give you a chance to speak up for Ruchu and set the record straight. That reticent nature of his. Let's go. The emperor turned and walked ahead, and I followed behind. Unsure of where he intended to take me. Go and invite all the officials to the open ground in front of the Changning Hall. Also, invite the ladies from every palace. Didn't they say I like to use her to scare people? Today, let them see for themselves whether I've been frightening them or not. Some people, with just a single mouth, can make others feel so ashamed and indignant they wish to die. I wanted to say that shame and indignation only affect those who have a sense of face. Those without shame are beyond reproach. Besides, I'm not some monkey on a mountain for everyone to gawk at. Is it really appropriate for you all to watch me? Even Wen Su himself doesn't speak up, so why should I be the one to say anything? The so-called Changning Hall is the place where the emperor and officials secretly discuss matters after court. The open space is indeed spacious. Accommodating 100 or so people is no problem at all. His Majesty sits comfortably in his chair, wrapped in a heavy fur robe, wearing a hat, and with palace attendants bringing a brazier. But has he ever considered, do the other officials enjoy such treatment? What about me? I'm still cold. Before long, all who could come had arrived. There were those with graying hair and long beards, some younger ones, and also the good-looking ones, like Wen Su. I haven't seen him for dozens of days. And it's the first time I've seen him in official robes, dressed in crimson. I truly understood what it means. Jade piled like stones, pines arrayed like emerald. His beauty stands alone, unmatched in this world. But why is he avoiding me with downcast eyes? Shouldn't the one avoiding be me? The esteemed Minister of Revenue. He's really left me at a loss. I don't know how many imperial consorts there are in the rear palace. Seeing others kneel, I followed suit and knelt too. I recognized the Empress because only she is entitled to wear true red in the rear palace. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise quickly. Today, we won't stand on ceremony. They are here today to learn a lesson, so they will know what is appropriate to say in the future. With a wave of the Emperor's hand, everyone stood up. No one had the right to sit except the Emperor and the Empress. This is the eldest daughter of the Wen Su family, or if she is willing, she could also be the future matriarch of the Wen Su household. Whatever the case, she is certainly capable of managing the Wen family's affairs. She has heard that over the past 2 years, there have been people at court who keep bringing up Wen Su's past, and she wanted to come and see for herself what others are saying. As you all know, I and Wen Su have some unspoken history, so I do show him a bit of favoritism, which is why I agreed to her request. As soon as the Emperor finished speaking, the room fell into dead silence. I slightly opened my mouth in astonishment. This man is ruthless, even willing to dig into his own scandals. I wonder what those unspeakable 2 or 3 matters he mentioned were, and from start to finish, there was no chance for me to speak. Minister Zhong, how you usually impeach Wen Su, bring it out and speak of it today. The Emperor called his name, and that Minister Zhong, the censor, indeed stepped forward. I see Wen Su standing with his head bowed, as still as a mountain. Could it be that today's matter actually has nothing to do with him? This censor Zhong isn't old, just around 40, with a pale, beardless face and a stern, unsmiling expression. The wrinkles at the corners of his eyes speak of integrity and uprightness. With a flick of his sleeve and a tilt of his head, he already looks deeply aggrieved. Lord Zhong, Please wait a moment. Let's be clear first, we don't encourage that whole death remonstrance business. If one must die, it should be for a worthy cause. After all, His Majesty has already said that he and Minister Wen have some unspeakable matters between them. Even if you were to knock yourself to death, His Majesty might not necessarily dismiss Minister Wen as you wish. Are you implying that His Majesty is a foolish ruler? I, a common woman, have travelled all the way from the Eastern Sea to the capital. Crossing the entire Daking, I've taken boats, met fishermen, pearl divers, sailors, and merchants. I've ridden in carriages, encountered escorts, and seen mothers and daughters travelling far to visit relatives. I've met all kinds of people. Do you know what they say when they speak of His Majesty? They say the signs of a wise ruler are already evident, and our Daking is on the verge of a golden age like the Zhongguan era. May I ask, Lord Zhong, will anyone believe your words alone, if you die? Perhaps no one will even know, since not just anyone can write history. Speaking of which, my second brother, who placed third in the imperial examinations, is now compiling histories at the Hanlin Academy. From what I observe, as long as he lives, the history of Daking will inevitably pass through his hands. Do you think he'll write about you after you forced his elder brother to be dismissed? Moreover, if you attempt to die but don't succeed, do you think all of us here should save you? If we save you, we fear His Majesty won't grasp the firmness of your resolve. If we don't, our consciences would trouble us. Since we've come this far, I'll say one more thing. I have a brother-in-law who is a prince, and he's quite the chatterbox. He told me a bit about the matter between you, Lord Zhong, and our Minister Wen. You diligently criticize him every day. First saying that since he was once a male favorite, how could he serve as a minister of the state? Second, you accuse him of bewitching the emperor and disrupting the nation. Let's start with the first point. Which law of Daking states that someone who was once a male favorite cannot hold office? He achieved the top 3 honors in the imperial examinations, earning the title of Zhuangyuan, when his family faced disaster. He had no choice but to submit to the enemy to save his parents and brothers. This is filial piety. Did he submit for wealth or status? For years, he worked tirelessly to dismantle the enemy's conspiracy and restore peace to our Daking. This is loyalty to the emperor, Lord Zhong. Do you believe he shouldn't be alive, that he should have died after fulfilling his duty to be considered clean? What is unclean about him, just because he slept with a woman? Can you guarantee that every woman you've slept with has only been with you? If you found out she had been with another man, would you immediately die of shame and anger? If you could do that, then let him die too. You say he bewitches the emperor. Is that a compliment on his good looks? That much is obvious to all. He's probably 8 or 9 times more handsome than just good looking. After all, who doesn't enjoy looking at a beautiful person? After some thought, I suspect you're first jealous of his good looks, and then jealous of the emperor's favor toward him. Lord Zhong, why not keep that jealousy in your heart? What's the point of bringing it up every day? As for the chaos in the country, that's even more unfounded. The Great Qing has exempted taxes for 2 years. Yet the national treasury is abundant, the granaries are fully stocked, and I've heard military pay has even doubled. This humble woman would like to ask Minister Zhong. Aside from you thinking there's chaos, who else feels the same way? The censor is an official of remonstrance, a right granted by His Majesty to speak, not to say whatever you wish or whomever you wish to target. This humble woman hasn't read many books, but some principles are clear to me. If a person's heart is unclear, that's one thing, he's just a muddlehead. But if his mouth has no restraint, this humble woman believes he is a sinner. We common folk have a saying. Spittle can drown a person, the words of others are to be feared. I wonder if Minister Zhong understands this principle. May I ask where Minister Zhong resides, and who are the members of your household? When this humble woman has some free time, I will surely pay a visit to your residence. I've heard your home is quite impoverished, with only plain porridge and simple dishes daily, and that your wife has grown thin from hunger. I shall bring some food. Minister Zhong won't blame this humble woman for overstepping, will you? I have this flaw, I can't manage my own household affairs properly, yet I love meddling in others. Since you insist on interfering in this humble woman's affairs, I dare not be remiss and must likewise involve myself in yours. Say whatever you wish, Minister Zhong. This humble woman is all ears. His wife, who had lost several inches around her waist, was broad-shouldered and stout, while his son was a troublemaker. Always cockfighting and dog racing, stirring up trouble everywhere. I really do wish I could take a good hand in disciplining him. Lord Zhong's mouth opened and closed, but not another word came out for a long while. He didn't understand country folk. Even when 2 people were so exhausted they had to lie down, they could keep on quarreling. even when hungry, they could eat their fill and then resume. They could go at it for 12 hours straight without a break. What kind of scene haven't I witnessed? Who doesn't know how to quarrel? After I finished speaking, I suddenly felt refreshed and clear-headed, and even the weather didn't seem as cold anymore. Such a young age, yet so remarkable, sighed a slightly plump, long-bearded elder, who appeared to be a first-rank official. You flatter me, sir, I said modestly. I glanced at Wensu. Was his head stuffed with iron blocks? Why couldn't he lift it? Did you all hear that? Mind your own business. And don't overstep your bounds. Alright, that's all for now, everyone may leave. I still have something to discuss with Baoyan Ruchu. Since the emperor had dismissed everyone, they naturally dispersed. But the ladies really didn't need to leave so quickly. It's not like I eat people. Baoyan, when it comes to scolding people, you're the one I truly admire. You manage to be so clear and understandable without using a single vulgar word. Yet you can tear someone's face off and stomp on it over and over. If I ever have a need for that in the future, you must not refuse, the emperor said jokingly. Your Majesty is too kind, I said with a deadpan expression. Ruchu, you escort Baoyun out of the palace. After all, Chief Steward Song is getting on in years. We can't trouble him with everything. See her to the palace gate before you return. Minister Wen must be very busy. I dare not trouble you. Your Majesty can just assign someone to see me out. Isn't he your family's Minister Wen? What's wrong with having him escort you? It won't delay anything. Go ahead. Since the emperor had spoken like this, I dared not refuse any further and followed closely behind Wen Su. The empress wanting to see me and all that, was it actually just a trick to tease me? They say the emperor's heart is hard to fathom, and it seems this saying is indeed very true. The palace walls are deep. With an indescribable loneliness, he walked ahead, his back straight, and as the wind blew, his crimson robes fluttered like a flower blooming in solitude. He is truly exceptional, possessing the integrity of a scholar without being pedantic, gifted with great talent for managing state affairs, and extremely resilient in character. He also has remarkable composure. For instance, Censor Zhong criticized him relentlessly for 2 whole years. Yet he endured it without uttering a single word in retort. He is also handsome, and his future prospects go without saying. A second-rank official at just 31 years old, he is too good, so good that I feel I don't deserve him. Wen Su, this was the first time I called his name, he turned to look at me, his gaze clear, the corners of his mouth slightly upturned. What's wrong? You asked me why I didn't agree to marry you, right? It's because you're too good, so good that I feel unworthy of you. Your wife should be a woman skilled in music, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Someone who can discuss ancient and modern affairs with you and help manage your household. But I'm not capable of any of that. What I can do is not what he needs. Who is worthy of me is for me to decide. That day, I returned to the Wen family. There was no point in me avoiding or escaping anymore. After all, he had made it clear that he would decide for himself what kind of woman he wanted to marry. I had overthought it. The Wen family was small, and my second sister-in-law managed the household with ease. The years in prison seemed to have worn away my father's desire to serve as an official. He spent his days writing, painting, walking his bird, or playing chess, with nothing else to do. I also took up writing with him. I won't comment on the quality of my writing, but I have perseverance, and the characters I recognize are increasing day by day, which brings comfort to my father. Only Baozhu, unwilling to return to her husband's home, stayed at her parents' house. The Prince of Huai's face grew darker by the day. After discussing with my second sister-in-law, we specially prepared a courtyard and had the Prince of Huai move in as well. His expression immediately brightened, and he brought over many items like fabrics and jewelry, asking my second sister-in-law to distribute them among the female members of the household. My elder brothers had quite a few opinions about this matter. Well, let them have their opinions, who cares about them? After all, the in-laws were overjoyed. My mother's eyesight is poor, so she can no longer sew or embroider. Baozhu and I keep her company with conversation, and whenever there's a banquet invitation, she takes the 2 of us along. My second sister-in-law joins us whenever she has free time, so Minister Wen and Prince Huai personally escorted me there and back each time. Every time I went, I felt like the women from other families were trembling with fear around me, treading on thin ice, and not very willing to speak to me, but they liked my second sister-in-law, asking about Wen Su over and over again, inquiring about his preferences, and treating my mother with great attentiveness and courtesy. So I just sat to the side with Baozhu, listening. Baozhu has now developed some of the demeanor of a princess, but when it comes to being annoying, I'm afraid she learned that from me. No one can decide my eldest brother's marriage matters. Why don't you go ask the emperor?" Her face darkened, and who would dare ask further? After going a few times, it became uninteresting, so I stopped going. Since I didn't go, my mother and Baoju also stopped. My second sister-in-law occasionally had no choice but to go once or twice, but it was all for social interactions and unavoidable. As the weather turned cold and Baoju was already over 7 months old, my parents used the approaching New Year as an excuse to send her back. I don't know how the prince managed to persuade her, but she only came once every 4 or 5 days. With her not coming, I had even more free time. Every night, I would light a lamp and either write or do some needlework. For the first time in my life, I had this much leisure. On this day, the wind and snow were extremely heavy. Wensu didn't come back for dinner and sent someone to say he had social engagements in the evening. The family ate early, and since my parents went to bed early, I dismissed the maid who attended to me and let her rest early. I really don't need anyone to wait on me. But my mother insisted and forcibly assigned 2 13-year-old maids to me, who comb my hair and serve me tea and water every day. Outside, the north wind howled, whipping up snow with a mournful, eerie sound. Inside, the heated floor kept the room warm. I let my hair down, wearing only my undergarments, and sat cross-legged on the heated kang bed, reading a miscellaneous book my father had just given me. The book was filled with fascinating tales of the supernatural and folk legends, incredibly interesting. Before I knew it, the night had grown very late. A knock sounded at the door. I threw on an outer garment and went to answer it. Outside the door was actually the servant attending to Wensu. His name is Song Mo. The young master drank too much today and wanted to take a bath when he returned. He usually doesn't let anyone attend to him, but now he's been in the bathhouse for over half an hour. I called out several times without a response, and when he finally answered, he said he was dizzy and couldn't get out, so he asked me to find you to help him. What kind of situation is this? He won't let anyone else in, but he wants me to help. I'm an unmarried young lady. For goodness sake, what will others think of me? Just look at Song Mo's expression. I'm afraid I won't be able to clear my name even if I jumped into the Yellow River. Didn't you ask if his second or third brother could help instead? The young master only wants you to go. I remember the crisscrossing scars on his body, but so be it. It's not like I haven't seen them before, and I've long lost any reputation to speak of. After that incident at the palace, who would dare marry me? People avoid me when they see me. I put on a cotton dress, draped a cloak over my shoulders, and followed Song Mo to his courtyard. This was my first time here, and it was no different from other places, bleak in winter, with snow already ankle deep. I knocked on the door of the bathhouse, calling his name. It took him a long time to tell me to come in, but his voice sounded so hoarse, so terribly off. What was wrong? I pushed the door open and entered. Inside the bathhouse, there was a pool 8 feet wide and 10 feet long, with a couch beside it. Towels and soap berries were placed on the couch. He was leaning against the pool wall, his hair still tied up, his clothes piled messily by the edge. The water in the pool had no warmth at all, yet his eyes were closed, his face flushed, his thin lips slightly parted as he breathed faintly. What's going on? I walked over to look at him. Although the room was heated by an underfloor system, the water was ice cold. His chest was bare, but his trousers were still on. Baoyin. He opened his eyes, the corners of which were bloodshot and glistening with tears. Although his old wounds had healed, scars of varying depth still remained on his body. Were you drugged? I bit my lip and stared at him. What's wrong with him? Who would harm him like this for no reason? How has he endured it until now? Baoyin, he murmured again, looking at his condition. I'm afraid he's already losing consciousness. The aphrodisiac is vicious. If the antidote is given too late, it might lead to a sudden death, or perhaps, deep down, I've developed a selfish thought and don't really want to find an antidote for him. I loosened my cloak and sat by the pool, gazing into his dazed and bewildered eyes. The person who drugged him is truly cruel. Knowing what he cares about most, they deliberately aimed to destroy him. If he were to lose his composure in public today, given his personality, he might truly choose to end his life. It's me. I am Baoyin. I cupped his face, lowering my head to kiss his lips. The heat was scorching, burning my heart with pain. I cared for him so deeply, yet there were always those who wished to ruin him. He opened his eyes to look at me, and I pressed my lips against his, kissing him tenderly. Baoyin, he gasped softly, calling my name. I kissed the corners of his eyes, the tip of his nose, the mole at the corner of his mouth, the Adam's apple on his neck, and the crisscrossing scars on his chest. He said he was dirty, but he wasn't at all. He just didn't know it. I felt as if I had died and come back to life, experiencing his joy, hearing him call my name over and over again. Perhaps I was truly exhausted, Or perhaps I didn't want to open my eyes. In any case, I slept for a long time. I knew he washed my body, dressed me, and carried me back to the warm heated bed, and then I truly fell asleep. By the time my mother arrived, I was lying sprawled out on his bed, my hair disheveled, fast asleep. When my mother woke me up, I was still a bit dazed. He was kneeling on the ground, looking handsome and radiant, with a soft glow on his face. I was terrified and quickly knelt on the kang, but a certain part of me hurt, so I had to grit my teeth and bear it. I had already slept with my mother's own son. How could I have the face to see her? Mother, last night's incident was all my fault. I took advantage of his drunkenness and did that to him. Mother, hit me. It was all because I had ill intentions toward him and lost my senses. There were only the three of us in the room. Mother hadn't said a word for a long time. I kept my head down, stealing glances at Wen Su, who knelt with unshakable confidence. I had never seen him smile like that before. Since you've admitted it, I won't say more. I'll go ask your father to pick an auspicious day so we can arrange the wedding as soon as possible. I stared at Mother with my mouth agape. She smiled kindly, not a trace of anger in her expression. She told me to lie down, to rest until I was full and sleepy, and to sleep as long as I wished. Then she asked Wen Su to bring me medicine. Turning around, she scolded Wen Su for having no restraint. How could he keep me up all night? What if he had hurt me? I lay down and silently pulled the quilt over my head. What face do I have left? How did Mother know about the all-night commotion? In my days, I recalled last night, the commotion was more than just loud. When he goes wild, it's downright deadly. My mother said a man with too thin a waist is useless. She was lying to me all along. There was no need for Father to pick the date. The very next day, His Majesty the Emperor arranged our marriage. The wedding was set for the 8th day of the 12th lunar month. I heard it's an auspicious day for all things. Along with the dowry, I was also granted permission to leave from the Huai Prince's residence for my wedding. I moved into the Prince's residence, with only 10 short days from the betrothal to the wedding. I didn't even have time to embroider a bridal veil. Already feeling utterly humiliated, what was the point of worrying about etiquette? I heard that Wen Su came twice. But both times Baozhu sternly sent him away. Mother said it's unlucky to meet before the wedding, so she told him to go back and wait until the wedding day. He left a peach blossom note. I have long admired you, but you alone are unaware. To be able to marry Baoyin, I am overjoyed. I pursed my lips and pressed the peach blossom note tightly to my chest. That day he came to marry me. I held an orchid-patterned round fan and sat in the room waiting for him. Baozhu sat beside me and sent her personal maid to watch the door-blocking ceremony. After all, the prince had invited all the renowned scholars in the capital just for this door-blocking tradition. Sister, put down your fan. Your hand will get sore if you hold it up for too long. It'll be a while before my elder brother can enter, Baozhu said while munching on peanuts. She had a hearty appetite and enjoyed everything she ate. I put down the fan and patted her head. Who would have thought that one day I would be married from her household? I suppose Wen Su didn't expect it either. If he had, he surely would have treated the prince better. Sister, on the very day you arrived at our home, my husband secretly told me that the way my elder brother looked at you was anything but innocent, that he would surely marry you one day. I scolded him for saying that, but now it seems he was absolutely right. Baozhu's eyes were clear and bright as she spoke with a cheerful smile. In just a quarter of an hour, the maid returned, saying the door was open and the groom would arrive shortly. I came alone, and now I am marrying him alone as well. Since I was marrying from the prince's mansion, the dowry was naturally prepared by the prince. I heard that many of the items were bestowed by the emperor, and some were prepared by my parents. Baozhu said Wen Su sent over his own money and land deeds, which the prince included in the dowry. That day, I married him as I had wished. He loved and cherished me all his life, never speaking a harsh word to me, nor ever letting me suffer the slightest grievance. Extra Chapter 1, Huanyang. When Huanyang was to marry into the Wen family, her father did not allow it. Her father was only a 7th-rank official and had only her as a daughter. Though the family was poor, they treated her like a precious jewel. The Wen family's matriarch came in person, but her mother did not dare to agree, saying she had to wait for her father to return and discuss it. When her father returned and heard about it, he only said that the second son of the Wen family was indeed beyond reproach. But Minister Wen was too deep and unpredictable. Though things looked splendid now, no one could tell what the future might hold. The second son of the Wen family was a top scholar. On the day he rode through the streets in celebration, she went to see him. As gentle as jade, that phrase must have been meant for someone like him. Such a person, she had never even dared to dream of. A few days later, minister when came in person to discuss his younger brother's marriage. He spoke with her father for half a day, and to her surprise, her father agreed. Later, she learned that minister when had declared that starting from him, the men of the Wen family would not take concubines. Even if there were no heirs, they would adopt rather than take a concubine. After marrying into the Wen family, Huanyang realized that married life could be comfortable and carefree. Her in-laws were easygoing people who never made things difficult for her or imposed strict rules. Although the eldest brother was a high-ranking official, aside from being a man of few words, he was filial to his parents and kind to his younger siblings. Her sister-in-law, though married into the royal family, was pure and adorable. The third brother was honest and sincere, and as for the second son, well, he was beyond description. Speaking of the family's Baoyin, Mother Baozhu would always shed tears. Huanyang knew that this Baoyin was not the Wen's biological daughter. Bianjing was not far from the capital, and what's more, the affairs of the Wen family always piqued people's curiosity. Because the eldest brother had turned down the marriage proposal from the Song family, a rumor slowly spread in the capital. The eldest brother had a wife who had been raised in the family since childhood. When the Wen family fell into hardship, it was she who went through countless difficulties to bring up Baozhu and took care of the parents and brothers in prison until they were released. It was also she who rented a house and went out to make a living to support the whole family. Back when the Wen family was in trouble, not a single relative came to help, but when they heard that the eldest brother had become a minister, the rented house in Tanghua Alley was packed with people. They were all there seeking official positions. The two elders fell ill from anger. Later, it was Baoyin who scolded them all away. The part where she cursed people was even copied down by storytellers. At that time, she was still unmarried. When father spoke of this matter, he said that if Miss Chen was truly the wife the Wen family had raised for the minister, then the Wen family would surely not suffer any losses in the future. Erlang spoke a great deal about her, and Huanyang was both impressed and envious. Whenever Baoyin was mentioned, the eldest brother would not say a word. He was a man of few words and a cold demeanor. Their father-in-law often lamented that when they went to the capital, they should have tied her up and brought her along. Even if she didn't want to be the eldest daughter-in-law of the Wen family, he and his wife should have arranged a good marriage for her. She ought to have been the Wen family's rightful eldest aunt. The eldest brother frowned and said, with her being so ugly, who would marry her? Let her stay and be cared for by the Wen family. When he said that, the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. For someone usually so aloof, it gave him a touch of humanity. Baozhu tearfully scolded him. Eldest brother, you're talking nonsense. How is my sister ugly? You're the one who's ugly. Probably only she dared to speak to her eldest brother like that. It was said that in the late princess's mansion, there were thousands of handsome men, yet she was the only one who was sincere to him, even going so far as to say that if he were to ascend the throne in the future, he would be the emperor's consort. This clearly showed how peerless his beauty was, unmatched by anyone in the Great Qing. But the eldest brother only laughed even more heartily and asked Baozhu where exactly her sister was beautiful. She was clearly waiting for others to praise her. Baozhu, twisting her neck, said, "My sister is fair-skinned. I've never seen a girl fairer than her. She loves to laugh, and when she does, her eyes curve like crescent moons. Her teeth are white, and her lips are red." The phrase rosy lips and pearly teeth was written just for her. Her braids are thick and long. The young men who come to the shop blush when they see her smile. Don't you think she's beautiful? Mother then said that Baozhu was absolutely right. She had never seen a girl who loved to laugh more than her. She was both steady in character and thoughtful. Once she reached the capital, if anyone were to meet her, countless young men would surely want to marry her. And so, 2 years passed, and she really did return. She wore a bright red cloak and a white fox fur hat on her head. With long, confident strides, she looked incredibly carefree and at ease. Just as Baozhu had said, when she smiled, her eyes curved, and her plump cheeks were so fair they almost dazzled. If she hadn't mentioned it, who could have guessed she was already 25? Even so, her family still said she had tanned. Imagine how fair she must have been before. Her temperament was truly excellent. She was never picky, spoke with wit, and was well-traveled and knowledgeable. One could talk with her for days without growing tired. What's more, she was an exceptional cook. Baozhu also loved to wear her hair in a single braid, a habit she kept even after marriage. It was something she had learned from Baoyin. She was like that too, with thick black hair braided into a single plait. When she turned around, the plait would swing, and it was indescribably beautiful. Ever since she returned, her eldest brother came home early every day. In the past, they would gather in their mother's room to chat, but the eldest brother rarely joined them. He was always busy. with countless invitations delivered to the estate each day. More often than not, he slept in the outer courtyard, but ever since Baoyin came back, he stopped receiving guests after returning home and wouldn't go out even when invited by others. Her eldest brother seemed to love teasing Baoyin, and she would tilt her head back and retort defiantly. He would just look at her and laugh. His eyes filled entirely with her. Everyone at home knew that the eldest brother was going to marry her, only she herself was unaware. One day, they stood under the corridor talking, and they chatted for what felt like half the day. She looked up while speaking, and the eldest brother listened with his head bowed, occasionally replying with a word or two. When she was happy, she laughed crisply and brightly. When she was upset, she tilted her head and glared at him. The eldest brother would reach out and ruffle her hair, and she would instantly cheer up again, her eyes so bright they could hold the stars. Erlang watched them, and as he watched, he began to weep. He said, "Huanyang, look, aren't they such a perfect match? Only she understands the grievances the eldest brother has endured. If it weren't for Baoyin that day, Mother would have died. If Mother had died, how could we have survived during the hardest times for the eldest brother? It was Baoyin who supported us and kept us moving forward." She once spoke to the eldest brother about integrity and character, and he said that if it weren't for her, he would have died long ago. To call her our savior would be an understatement. Later, my eldest brother married her, and which girl or woman in the capital didn't envy her? Not because she married a minister, but because of how my brother treated her. She married into the Wen family, which became both her in-laws and her own home. She would act spoiled in front of her parents, and when it came to disciplining Bao Qin, she was neither soft-spoken nor lenient. Though she didn't manage the household, who in the family didn't respect and protect her, my brother treated her as more precious than his own life, brushing her hair and painting her brows, holding and kissing her, never avoiding others' eyes. Those peach blossom eyes could no longer hold anyone else, after so many years. Her smile still looks exactly as it did when they first met. Extra Chapter 2, Daily Life. On this day, when Sue was on leave and did not attend court, the summer sun rose early, already shining on the window frames. When Sue had risen early, having read for half an hour and then led Chaorong in writing for another half hour. After having breakfast with her parents, she left Chaorong with her grandparents. When he returned to the room, the person on the bed was still asleep, the blanket covering her head, with a pair of feet carelessly sticking out. When Sue walked over, gently pulled back the blanket, her hair was already tousled from sleep, most of it plastered to her face. He sat by the bedside, softly brushed the hair away from her face. The sleeping girl had rosy cheeks, faint laugh lines at the corners of her eyes, and her mouth was slightly open, perhaps from breathing difficulties. She seemed to have taken root in his heart. He could never get enough of looking at her. When Sue leaned down and kissed her full forehead, "Baoyin, time to wake up, eat something before going back to sleep." He reached out and pulled her into his arms. She wrapped her arms around his shoulders, resting her chin comfortably against his slender neck and nuzzling gently. "I want to sleep a little longer," she mumbled. "It's time for breakfast. How about eating first and then going back to sleep?" He coaxed patiently. Baoyin shook her head and held him even tighter. When Sue had no choice, though he was not a patient man by nature, for some reason, he could summon endless patience when it came to her. He let her cling to him like that for about half an hour, until she finally managed to open her eyes with difficulty, let out a big yawn, tears glistening in her eyes, knelt before him, and looked up to kiss the mole at the corner of his lips. She dawdled out of bed, and when Sue had already prepared the washing water for her, neither too hot nor too cold, just right, she washed her face and brushed her teeth, then sat on the stool watching him. He picked up the comb, his movements so practiced they couldn't be more familiar as he tied up her hair. "Minister Wen, I had a dream last night. I dreamed you told me that the aphrodisiac that day was something you administered yourself. Do you think that dream was real?" She turned to glance at him, a mischievous smile curling at the corner of her mouth. His hands paused for a moment, then continued to tie her hair. "Although I didn't personally administer it, I was at least an accomplice. That day, when I attended the banquet at Minister Song's residence, someone in the court held a grudge against me and tried to drug me to make a fool of myself. I had known about it all along but didn't expose it. I drank half of the drugged wine, thinking that even if you didn't care for me, I wouldn't die immediately." He spoke unhurriedly, and Baoyin chuckled. If the emperor hadn't let it slip, she probably would never have thought of this in her entire life. "Who doesn't know that I want to marry you? Only you, after kissing me, ran away. If I hadn't used a little trick, I'd probably still be a bachelor now." He also laughed softly, his voice rich and pleasant. "Before he was old enough to like a girl, to save his family and for the sake of Daking, he had to submit to someone. His pride, his integrity, were all shattered to pieces. In his dazed and confused state, she appeared, suddenly and yet as if it were meant to be. She lived with a precious pearl, her days not particularly easy, but every time she saw him, she smiled. Smiling as she planned their future life, as if as long as she wished for it, that life would come running to her. He watched her cook, listened to her talk, and actually felt that he too had a future. Since there was still a future, he had to grit his teeth and endure. She was sharp-tongued and bold, with nothing in the world that could stump her, except when it came to matters about him. She always seemed unable to figure things out. He had turned down a marriage proposal for her sake. Yet she actually considered marrying someone else. How could he bear it? 2 years was neither long nor short. He could wait. It was just a small scheme. Who would have thought she would actually believe it? Bao Yin, aren't you angry? He finished tying her hair and moved in front of her, lowering his head to look at her. She smiled with narrowed eyes, clearly in a triumphant posture. Why should I be angry? You did that only because you wanted to marry me. Since it was for me, I am extremely happy. Just like no matter how tall you grow, you still lower your head to look at me. You like me, and I am delighted. She raised her head and kissed his lips. He reached out and wrapped his arms around her waist, slowly closing his eyes. No one in the world understood him the way she did. By the time they went out, it was not just breakfast they had missed. Lunchtime was nearly upon them. Chaorong was kicking a shuttlecock in the courtyard and, upon seeing her father and mother, said in a childish voice, "Dad, you just spoil my mom, whose wife sleeps until the sun is high in the sky before getting up. She takes after her father, even at a young age. Though round and chubby, she is a budding beauty. Like her father, however, she seldom smiles." Upon hearing Chaorong's words, Bao Yin showed no sign of shame. She crouched in front of Chaorong and pinched her plump cheeks. "Clearly, my father is better looking. I'm telling you, little Chaorong. Don't think that just because you have your grandparents' favor, you can say anything to your mother. Your mother is still very young, much younger and better looking than your father. You actually believe what my dad told you. Mom, you're 30 years old, it's time to grow up." Chaorong patted her mother's head earnestly before continuing to kick her shuttlecock. Bao Yin hemmed and hawed for a long time, but couldn't come up with a single word of rebuttal. "You are the youngest and most beautiful in this world. No one compares to you," Wensu coaxed her with a smile. She nodded. She naturally believed everything he said, because she knew that in his heart, this was exactly how he saw her. The years are long, and she already has the best. What more could she be unsatisfied with? The end.